Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 507. Hopefully we survive here in Wisconsin. Not only is there threat of storms coming through, but I felt like I pulled into Jurassic Park here at your house. I know the new fancy washer and dryer you bought doesn't mow your lawn, because it would be nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm just going to pull in.
Park, huh?
I'm just saying, it's a little wild out there.
I mowed it last Saturday. That's a week's worth of growth, Terry Miller.
Last Saturday, not like
2 days.
4 days ago.
4 days. No, a week and 4 days ago.
Yeah.
It's no mow May as well, Terry. It's okay to let it go a little bit long.
No mow May, that's a thing.
Yes, it's 100% a thing.
Okay.
You're supposed to not mow the lawn to allow things like bees and
cicadas,
bugs,
the cicada
yeah, to allow
that's
them to pollinate, and because May is their big month.
All right.
So
well,
let's
just,
I'll say it.
Let's
That's
just
not
hope
why
I can find my way out of here tonight.
That's not why I'm doing it. I plan
You're
on
just
doing
lazy.
it. I plan on doing it maybe the next day. But we've gotten a ton of rain, so it's like every time I feel like I'm ready to go, it rains on me.
All right.
It rains on my parade.
Well,
and you know what I don't have? An umbrella.
Ella, A. Welcome to the show. We have champion from this weekend, one Ella Hansen. How you doing?
What's up, guys? I'm doing great. Made it back home, chilling for a little bit, feeling good.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to dox you, but I think I'll be in your neck of the woods as early as tomorrow, right? What general area are you calling home?
I'm in Seattle, so I don't know if you're heading to Portland but
No.
I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning. My brother's getting married this weekend, so off to a family wedding.
All right. Yes, I fly into Seattle tomorrow night. I'll talk more about that later. Cascade Challenge, Q Series this weekend, all that good stuff. So I'll be coming into Seattle tomorrow night, but I'll miss you. But nonetheless, you, more importantly, were in Stockton this weekend and getting some work done over there with some of your closer homies in the OTB folks, too. I mean, winning on some home turf over there, their home turf. How does that feel?
That's awesome. I mean, I love hanging out with those guys all the time and just being around the shop. And, the Seans, I know the tournament directors and a lot of the people who just help get everything done out there. So, yeah, it was a pretty special first one.
So congratulations, first and foremost, just to make that perfectly clear. But dig into the decisiveness that didn't seem apparent, obviously, coming into the final round, but by when it was all said and done, a seven-stroke, margin of victory. Just speak to how does that feel, knowing that it was so decisive?
Yeah, I think, for me, I just really felt confident. There were definitely moments where I was nervous, but I felt like every shot that I threw pretty much did what I thought it was going to do. And maybe I executed something a little not great. There was a couple up shots that I fluffed, but for the most part, most of my shots, I felt like I knew where I was aiming. I knew what angle I wanted to hit and was hitting them all the time. And so even coming down the stretch, I knew I had a decent amount of strokes to play with, but I was still just playing my game, throwing the shots that I wanted to throw because that were in my game plan overall, just because I knew that was my best shot for the hole. So, I kind of just kept it moving and felt good.
How does that compare to any of the other performances you've had this year in terms of how comfortable you were, or just the sheer execution, or maybe even the prior game planning? How does this differ from some of the other events?
Yeah, I definitely changed up the way I was sort of practicing a little bit, for Champions Cup and for this week. It was interesting. I talked to a couple of people after Champions Cup because I can't remember if I was finished seventh, somewhere in sixth or seventh, I think, at Champions Cup. But I felt really good, and I had done a couple scoring rounds in my practice. And And I think that I did that this week as well. But I was talking to other people and saying, like, it's weird that I, like, feel like I really got back in after, like, kind of struggling at a few tournaments at Champions Cup. And then I was, like, taking 2 weeks off. And obviously, you know, it worked out. But I was, like, thinking about that after that tournament, like, okay, this is kind of weird to be like, you know, normally when you get on your groove, you want to keep playing. So, yeah, I think sort of changing that practice strategy sort of helped me reframe and be like, you know what I wanted to do on each round. And it helped me, I think, stay a little bit more focused. I feel like I often have like kind of mediocre first rounds and then sort of get back into it in the second and third round. So this definitely helped me set myself up for success.
This event specifically this year came right after an announcement. They had it all timed out last week. It came with the announcement saying, hey, next year, this specific event won't take place as is, and instead supplanted by being the Champions Cup location, the major next year. Mm-hmm. Does that, I mean, I know it's almost a year away, but does that mean anything to you about when you return there next year? It'll be, in fact, to play for a major as opposed to defending this specific title. I mean, have you thought or concerned yourself with any of that kind of conversation?
I'm excited for that. I think it's interesting because, you know, so far Champions Cup has been like a wooded course, and I think people kind of associate that major with that right now, which I think it would be cool to have a wooded major, but I think also with like the state of Champions Cup, I know that they were considering putting in a bid for this year. And so I think with it still being up in the air with the IDGC, I think it's great. I think it's definitely going to be interesting to have a 4-round major on one course that's not super wooded. You know, I wouldn't say it's not like technical, but not quite in the same way that, you know, Jackson or Northwood is. But I think what I'm looking forward to the most, like I kind of said before, is like, I know that all the people who run that tournament, who I assume will be also running Champions Cup, all care really deeply. They work so hard to make the player experience amazing. The fans there are great. We had a huge gallery this past weekend, and so hopefully that and more for Champions Cup. And for me personally, as a West Coaster, I lived in the Bay for a little bit in California, so I'm excited to see a major coming back to the West Coast. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and maybe you kind of just touched on that, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds about it because I know it's a whole nother topic of conversation that could be had. But what do you feel like if you were to describe to the rest of the world, maybe in the midst of all this bickering and or non-applause that, you know, may have surfaced last week after the announcement, what's something that you would rebut with and you would say, hey, but you guys don't understand blank, or you're not seeing or realizing or experiencing XYZ? What are some of those things that you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Swenson Park course is really compelling. I think, you know, yes, it is on a golf course, and I think that certainly kind of limits what we see in terms of course layout. I think it's been really well designed and really like worked on by Leonard Muse. He's fine-tuned it quite a bit. So that's awesome. And yeah, like the player experience is amazing. It's really hard to find something to complain about for that tournament. You know, for me, maybe I'm biased, but I would say that before I won too. So, yeah, I think they, you know, the way they build the tee pads are great. You know, the way that they just set everything up. Yeah, I again can't really find anything to complain about. And I think it's kind of tough when you like look at a course that's on an open golf course like that. It can be kind of hard to be like, okay, like, is this actually a good hole? Is this interesting? But I think it is. Yeah,
and I just think it's tough. We're going from, you know, one extreme to another. Before we went to Champions Cup, everyone was saying, oh, the weather, the location, the time, it's not IDGC, it won't be tough enough, or whatever. They said all sorts of things. Then largely, I think we could all say that Northwood delivered. And then I feel like everyone switched their tune very quickly, which in that case was good. And now we're seeing just such the opposite end. We're going from so tight and wooded to, one of our more open style courses. And of course there was an uproar. I mean, no matter what, let's face it, you can't please everyone.
No, exactly. You're not going to make everyone happy no matter what you do. But the way I kind of look at it is I want a wooded major every year, some wooded major. And next year we're going to go to Europe for Worlds. Now, the courses there aren't exactly like tightly wooded like we see at WR Jackson, but there is woods, there is rough, as opposed to like a Swenson where I don't feel like there's a lot of rough. You can be out of position, you can be on the wrong side of the tree and have to throw a forehand versus a backhand. At least over in Europe, I think we're going to get a little bit more rough. The fairways are wider than what we're used to seeing. So to me, it'll almost feel like a wooded major. Not quite, but we're getting there. And I do want to see, it would be nice to be able to see every type of golf throughout the year at these majors. But you know what? If it's 1 year we can't do it and then we get back to IDGC, so be it. I mean, it happens. It's not life or death.
I don't know. I'm going to create an uproar.
You should.
Ella's got my back. Well, I don't know. We'll get real mad. So what would you answer?
I agree about the wooded major thing too. I mean, sure. I think that I think that would be great, but I also am excited that I know that the tournament will be run really well. And that it's a good course, even if it's not wooded.
Yeah. Now, what would you say to someone who, we watch you and Holland ultimately go in with a relatively large lead going into Championship Sunday? Some people, I'm sure, I'll spare my internet voice for now, but some people will say, well, yeah, that was a no-brainer. Two of our longest throwers on this relatively open golf course, in the lead. What a shock. Would you have any rebuttal to that? Or, what would you say to someone that would maybe make that accusation before the tournament even completed? As if you had some crazy advantage or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you break down the holes out there, pretty much everyone can birdie everyone. If you're talking about the top half of that, I think. And we see this with Owen winning big tournament courses that we say, oh, this is the throwers course, Texas State, or not Texas State, Austin,
Mm-hmm.
And D-Glow. So I think it's not that surprising. It wasn't that surprising to me that Holland and I were playing well.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of people who can have success. Madison Walker, who's known for more being a technical woods player, had a really great tournament. Super stoked for her. So, and birdied some really long, hard holes. So it's, it's totally possible. It's totally doable for a lot of the field.
Well, and to follow that up, like you were just saying, Owen Scoggins, obviously not exactly known for her long range prowess out there. Obviously a step behind you and Holland, but until the last hole when she bogeys, I mean, she was sitting on the podium and was clearly dissecting that course without any problems, seemingly not having any issues collecting birdies as well. So I think that's exactly to your point is, do you guys have an advantage? Yeah, sure. You do in some regard, but it wasn't I feel like to the point where you were untouchable or uncatchable. You just took advantage of how it set up for you this particular weekend. So, when you reflect on the weekend, what's something that you may take away from the win in any capacity, mentally or physically or whatever? What's something you take away?
I think I was really personally really proud. The number one thing that I'm taking away is that I was so happy with all of my friends who were there to celebrate with me. That was absolutely the biggest moment.
That was one of the biggest celebrations on the green we've seen in a while. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
Which obviously says so much about you and your friends and how beloved you are. So yes, we agree. Okay.
But I think for me, like in the past, I have struggled once I feel the nerves to actually execute and sort of to not let the nervous feeling kind of take over my whole body. You know what I mean? And not really feel like I'm in control of what I'm throwing and putting and all that stuff. So I definitely felt nervous this weekend. And that's kind of what I was really happy with about, okay, I'm nervous and I can still execute these shots. I can still throw. And like, I was throwing really, really good shots pretty much for the whole round, like, or the whole tournament. Like there was a few mistakes that I made, but like, I felt overall really in control of what I was doing. And I think that is like the biggest thing for me, to trust that I can do that. And it's not like, oh, once I get nervous, like it's over, I've lost it. So that's kind of probably the biggest thing that I'm bringing forward.
Was it difficult to play that final round and watch Holland kind of let the nerves get the better of her? Seeing as how such a close, you guys are, good buddies and everything, and you've both been in this position a few times now, to see the way you played versus the way she played. Clearly she struggled that final round. Did you talk to her at all during the round, or were you more just kind of focused on yourself at the time and then deal with that afterwards?
Definitely focused on myself. I mean, I think we talk a lot about like strategy and like what the best shot is during practice rounds and stuff, but pretty much if we play together in a tournament, we don't talk about that really at all. Kind of leave that up to each of our brains and caddies. I mean, it was tough. I know she had like some 3 shots that were like just barely OB, like maybe by a couple feet in the front 9. But she knows, we both know that each other are trying to win. And so, I think I was definitely aware of like how the separation that was happening, but also, I want my friend to be happy. So it was also a bummer to see her like frustrated and kind of just not quite hitting the shots that she wanted to.
So once all those in-game moment feels and vibes and everything else is like subsided, and there's been the celebration and everything else, is there a little trash talking now? Are you guys like back on par with like?
Is it hard to trash talk after she finishes around like that? Like,
that's why I say after it settles.
I gotta
are you guys...
let it go for like a little bit, at least, because I think she said that's like her worst round of the year. She was pretty bummed. So I mean, I'm not like out there being like, why'd you throw that OB? Also, she did actually beat me. She did win something this weekend. She won the WGE because one of her rounds like was rated 0.1 higher than mine. And so it only counted Friday and Saturday's rounds, and we were tied score-wise, but her rounds were 0.1 rated higher than me. So she won the WG. So she can at least take that, Okay. That's kind of my trash talk, is like, okay, at least you won the WG.
That's good for you. So I guess that answers that question, and I apologize for not even looking yet. I know that was a big conversation that we'll get to later when we review all scores, but she ultimately is your WGE overall champion with an average of 1,019.8 compared to your 1,019.7. That's insane. Like, crazy.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Wow. And then to put that in perspective, Kat Murch then, who obviously played well in those first couple of rounds, she finished 3rd. Cadence Burge finished 4th, and Owen Scoggins finished 5th. So 4 out of the 5 all coming from the OTB. And we'll, after we're done talking to you, we'll go through and talk more about all of those, which is a huge weekend and very cool to see overall as well. Was that even a thought for you?
Also just being a teammate.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, I knew it was happening. I didn't really realize there was like a prize for first.
Okay.
I don't even know. I think I did like a mini WGE back in 2021. I don't think I did one in 2022. So this is maybe my first WGE. So, I'm stoked about that event. I think it's really great. I'm happy to see how many people participated this year. That's amazing. But no, it wasn't really like in my in my brain thinking about it. I'm getting worried about it, but I do think it's funny that Holland beat me by 0.1.
Well, that's cute. That's good for her. No, seriously, congrats to her for it. I want to back up just a little bit in the fact that we in the media, myself and a ton of others, we're at the point where we're constantly anticipating and expecting not only good things, but a win from yourself and Holland. And I know that's been part of this conversation. What I think the rest of the world forgets, because maybe even the narrative we push, you guys have only been playing for a couple of years. Like, that's what I think the world has completely forgotten. And I think about you, busting onto the scene in the biggest fashion for me is watching what you did at the U.S. Women's a few years ago in California. Did you finish second or third?
Yeah, third.
Yeah, third. Which I think could have been second all the way down to the final hole, I think is maybe where you, yeah. So, I mean, but that was just a couple of years ago.
And I yeah.
Up. I mean, Paige went on to win that, but that was just a few years ago. And same with Holland. I mean, I saw Holland at one of her early PDGA events ever, and next thing you know, she's sponsored. She says she's not going to tour. She goes on tour, and now, like you, she's a household name. And you guys have only been in the scene a couple of years. Do you feel like it's been a long time for your career?
I mean, it's funny because I guess I played Ultimate for a long time, but I don't know that I have that much to compare to because this is the first sport I've ever been a professional athlete in. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I definitely can see the growth. I think for the past couple of years, I'm getting settled in. I have a good friend group, a good, gang of people to hang out with on tour and spend time with and practice with and all that jazz. So, it doesn't feel like just yesterday that I started playing disc golf. I feel like I know a lot about the sport at this point, pretty involved in it, obviously. So, yeah, but it is cool to kind of think back and take that wider view and look at, just how recently I did start playing in Holland as well. And just to see how much both of us have grown is very cool.
Well, I look, and it was 2021 is the U.S. Women's that we were just talking about. You finished third there. That was May 21st through the 23rd of 2021. So almost exactly 3 years ago is when you really, I think solidified yourself as a contender, finishing third at a major. And a little more than 1,000 days or whatever that math comes out to. And here you are, taking it down. It's just, we've all forgotten that because you guys have come, you rose so quickly and became contenders at every event so quickly. So that's all in all is just nothing but a compliment to where you're at with your game. What do you set goals for yourself, as in what's next or not? What are your eyes set on now?
I mean, obviously would love to win a major, would love to win worlds. I think those are kind of obviously the next steps. But yeah, more Elite Series would be pretty sick. I think it's always kind of been a goal to win an Elite Series, since I've been on tour, in the back of my head. But I think this year really, tried to focus more on the process goals rather than the outcome. Because, it's funny to look at my first tournament of the year, chess.com. I played really, really well. I had my best average round rating of my whole career for a tournament, and, I lost. I got second. And so, I think for some people they kind of thrive more on the competitive nature of I just want to be the best out of everyone, which obviously I kind of do too. But I think that it has been a lot more clear of a path to me to focus more on those process goals of just trying to get my skills better and more consistent so that I can be putting together good rounds and setting myself up to have success in tournaments.
So with all of that, and we're going to allow you to be a little bit picky here because now you've got the Elite Series in your back pocket. You've got your first one. When you look at the schedule, and we're not going to give you a major in this made-up scenario just yet, although I hope you win one. But if I said to you, all right, Ella, I can grant a wish of one more Elite Series this year, at least one more win, is there anyone that stands out as more special or particular or a favorite? Anything else on the rest of the schedule from an Elite Series perspective?
I think like Maple Hill. I mean, I think that's my favorite course on tour, and I think that's another one of those like experiences where like as a player, the staff and everyone there is just taking care of the players. It feels awesome to be there. Such a good environment, and I think people, know I can throw far and kind of see me as just like a open golf course style player. But, I've had a lot of success at wooded courses over the past couple of years. And, I think Maple Hill or like Ledgestone, if we do play Northwood, I'm not sure what that's going to be this year. But, I think Maple Hill or just something wooded, maybe GMC, just, I think I want to be able to show folks that I can play good wooded golf too.
You want to shut them haters up. I'll say it for you. You can everyone that just thinks she only bombs in wide open or big fairways. That is that's a great perspective.
And she put it at the end of the year, something to look forward to.
Yeah,
you don't want to win the next event, even if it is in your backyard in Portland.
So like jumping into the pond would be so sick. I mean, I also would love to do that. But,
no one stops you from jumping in the pond on like Friday or Saturday. Just saying.
Yeah. Hey, I thought about it at OTB, but those ponds are way too disgusting.
Yeah, that's.
I think of also the one thing that is funny about that course in particular is the wildlife, and most of us would never think. Oh, yeah. I mean, out there in Stockton, California, out at this populated course with all this activity and all these people. But wildlife always feels like almost a tertiary story that's taking place out there. Anything in particular that you saw this weekend that jumped out at you?
A lot of baby geese, a lot of goslings, a few foxes. I did not see this personally, but I heard there was an FPO player who, during the practice round, a fox picked up her disc and then moved it somewhere else and then came back and pooped on it.
Wow. I mean,
so that's kind of one-upping Sexton the P story. Although I don't think she aced on the next throw with it. So maybe that kind of, but still the pooping, like they have been known, they will move people's discs. They will pick them up. I think Allie Smith lost one and she's convinced that like the fox just stole it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole nother level of danger that presumably we don't worry about at too many other courses, is the fact that some of these animals out there might be relocating or moving things on you guys. So that's pretty crazy. Someone asked in the board, and before we let you go, of course, we'll have you give all your shout outs, but what's the conversation like with sponsors? And don't, maybe hopefully not limited to just Discmania, but what are they doing? And is there anything else special that's going to come as a result of this to celebrate?
Yeah, I believe there's going to be like a Triumph Series disc, I think, and trying to get some cool merch done with OTB as well. That's kind of all I'm aware of right now, but hopefully there will be some fun stuff.
Is there, and this is your first elite win, but did you at any point like go to an old email Sunday night and be like, oh yeah, here's my contract. Oh, this is what happens on an elite win. Did you do any of that?
No, I didn't. I didn't even really look at like the payouts or the scores or anything. I kind of knew what people were doing, but this was actually like the first tournament in a while where I didn't check scores at all during round. So I think that kind of also helped keep me in the zone and just tried to stay focused on myself. And I knew that I would be really happy with the outcome if I won, and all the just the winning in itself, but all the other stuff is like icing on the cake.
I always think it's a little easier to not keep track of scores when you're shooting well. Like, you're shooting well,
yeah.
And you kind of have a feeling of the other cards and people on your card. You're like, all right, they haven't caught me, and I'll just keep going. Like, I think it's more difficult if you know you're in a battle, and it's kind of like, do I need this one? Do I not? I should check maybe on hole 8 and then hole 12. But when you're just in the zone, so to speak, cruising through, getting birdies, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think during the broadcast I want to say it was 16 or 17, there was a call out, I think, to Perkins to ask if, you were walking down the fairway and you had pulled out your phone. And then the kind of question with Sarah and Ian in the booth was, well, does she know scores, or maybe she's just checking, or maybe now she's just checking for the first time as you're walking down. I don't know if it was the 16th or 17th. And I think we were all convinced, maybe that's your first glance and everything seemed, good and no worries. But you're saying not even then, that wasn't, were you just tweeting back at your mom? What was
checking Mariners scores?
Yeah, what?
Probably. Yeah, honestly, baseball, sometimes do like New York Times games if we have a backup, just texting people.
Okay, so not checking scores at that point.
I definitely checked. I had looked at like the card scores a little bit, and I think I definitely mentally knew where I was relative to Holland in terms of our scores. But I know we had a pretty big gap between Kat and Owen, but I know they both are capable of shredding. So I wasn't really, they weren't in my mind, and that was kind of like the unknown. I knew how much I had on Holland, and then I asked my caddy on 16 because I had like a 30-footer, like kind of death putt for birdie, and I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna lay this up, and he was like, yeah, good idea. I was like, great, okay. And then I kind of knew I could bogey 17, but I did. And then walking up to 18, I was like, I think I know, but like, can you tell me how many strokes I have? And he said I had 7, and I was like, all right, I'll try not to get a 10 on this hole.
And a 10 even might have done it still, depending on how things check out.
Yeah.
Good to know that you have plenty plenty in your back pocket. At first, when I saw you walking up, I think maybe it was Sarah or somebody said, or maybe it was even Nate saying something about you walking up to putt on 18. I'm like, no, she's got to putt last. And I was like, okay, you were just going up to lay it next to the basket, which, made plenty of sense.
I didn't want to stress myself out anymore. I was already nervous, and I was just trying to enjoy the moment and not feel stressed that I'm going to miss a putt in front of everyone.
Was there, someone asks on the board, seeing as how you are, I mean, kind of a local from that area, at least at one point, did you have any friends or family that were able to hang out with you for this win other than golfers? Did you have anybody from outside the disc golf community, or are they mostly up in the Pacific Northwest?
Mostly in the Pacific Northwest. I've definitely had a couple of like old Ultimate teammates who have come out in previous years. But no, this year was just all golfers. Aaron caddied for me. He works for OTB. He's the one who caddied for Paige last year. And he asked me like Thursday night, I was hanging out at the shop, and he was like, Ellie, you need a caddy? And I was like, yeah, I guess I do. And he was like, all right, well, I'm 1 for 1, so you better win it. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
damn.
That's some pressure. Now he's 2 for 2.
So,
yeah.
Well, and like there have been multiple players now who are like, how much do I have to pay you to get me to caddy for me next year? Stay away, he's mine.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you stake claim? Is it assumed you have first right to refusal next year for Champions Cup then?
I think so. So.
Okay.
Or he maybe
might try to like steal him back, but I don't know. I think I gotta hang on to him.
I mean, that's a little greedy on his part. I mean, literally, he could be giving other people wins. Like, like Ella, you got one. Ew. I'm gonna wander over here to Ellie Ezra this year, and let her get one next year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. Now there's a lot of pressure on him next year as well. I mean, to go 3 for 3, that's. I guess we'll have to see how that. Yeah, we'll have to see how that all unfolds. The OTB family, just expand on them. We'll talk about the Shawns as well, who Johnny and I know pretty well also and love to death. But just expand and maybe gush on the OTB family out there, if you would.
Yeah, of course. Just awesome people. Yeah, one of my first sponsors. I think I can't even remember. I think I saw that they had sponsored Holland. This was like back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like brand new. I was like, Holland and I actually played together in our first ever Pro Tour tournament at Las Vegas Challenge in 2021.
Okay.
Did not know each other, but I knew about her, and she definitely, like, we talked about it since then. She definitely knew about me. So I think I saw that they sponsored her. So I think I just like messaged them on Twitter maybe. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to be a disc golfer. Like, do you have any interest in sponsoring me? And they were like, okay. And yeah, just like, Danny, who owns the company, the founder, he is a awesome person. I've hung out with him and his mom in Prince Edward Island a couple of years ago, and his wife, and just like awesome people. Just, yeah, can't say that enough. Great hosts for the players, for the fans, like just putting in the work, being good people, and making my life easy. And yeah, I played the NorCal Team Invitational in Stockton this past November, and I literally slept on a couch at the shop because I didn't want to get a hotel room. I like texted Aaron. I was like, hey, any chance I could just like sleep at the shop? And he was like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
So
well, yeah, take the extra security. I mean, part of what you're saying is, I got to visit there last year, the year before, and I think it was just last year. First time in the shop finally, and like you said, the atmosphere, the people, just the camaraderie among everyone, like the good fun nature, but then on top of it, like you said, just good people that are all about supporting golf in whatever way possible. And then it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it also becomes like a 3 or 6 or 12-day party there as well.
That is absolutely
right?
True. Yes. Like, it gets wild. Honestly, yeah. I try to leave when it gets wild. I was like,
yep.
Actually, on Saturday, I got there like in the afternoon, and they were just finishing up work, and they were like, we're leaving, but if you want to just like hang out here and like be in charge, you can. And so I just like hung out there, laid on the couch for like 5 hours and chilled by myself. It was great. But yeah, like they have this thing called the main event, which is basically you're playing disc golf through a track through the shop with a blowfly, PGA blowfly. They got them all over. That's super fun. I love doing that. I just love playing silly games. That's actually like where Holland and Raven and I all became friends. We were at the shop, I think it was 2022, and we all was like, let's try to like throw discs into random parts, make little mini challenges. And that's like really kind of where we became friends, which is a great memory. And I think like on Sunday night, I played an exorbitant amount of games. We played like knockout basketball, played a little volleyball, played Clask. I played Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. And Guitar Hero. And we like threw a football back and forth over a bunch of people for like 30 minutes. And Albert Tom was being a goalpost so we could try to kick field goals like through his arms. Like, it was amazing. It was so much fun.
All right. So it sounds like a good time and exactly what everyone talks about and then seems to post about and have experience out there. And then the Shawns 1,000 rated is their company, like we said, hosting as TDs this year, then the host technically next year, of course, for the Champions Cup. Where did some of that relationship start? Was that from did you know them from when you lived in the Bay Area, or I feel like that might have been too early for you?
Yeah, a little bit from them. From then, sorry. Yeah, I honestly I don't even really quite remember exactly, but I think it was mostly that I was in the Bay, and I can't remember if it was Mercy or Jack, but they were like, will you play on our NTI team? They really wanted me on team SF. Even though I didn't live in San Francisco. I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but like, sure. And somehow Mercy has convinced me to come back every single year, even though I don't live in the Bay anymore.
Okay.
We'll see about this year, but maybe I got good vibes at Stockton, so we'll have to see. Just like really, really hard workers. They helped TD Worlds last year, and in Vermont, and just like really, taking feedback and trying to like make the player experience and the fan experience and the media experience and everything as good as they can possibly make it. And they have a lot of experience doing that. They know their stuff, and great people.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to rewind for a moment and ask or clarify that a lot of people may not know you have some history and background in live broadcasting, live camera operation, and stuff of that nature. Will those opportunities maybe ever present themselves again, or is that a past life because like you're a big time elite winner and all? Like, do you ever see those worlds colliding again where you're operating some cameras?
Are you going to do camera work at USDGC again? Is that where?
Dude, I absolutely would if we didn't play Throw Pink at the same time.
Yeah.
I would love to. I love, running a camera. And the current DGN director, Ian Lunger, was like my director when I was doing ultimate camera work and at USDGC. So he's a good friend of mine. And I would love to if the opportunity arises. But I actually like in 2021 when I was kind of like starting to go on tour, when I had that third place finish at US Women's, I was actually talking to a couple of the guys who work for DGN about doing some going on tour and being a camera operator. And then I had that finish and I kind of was like, I think if I'm going to go to those tournaments, I'm going to play and not film.
It's all right. I mean, you only play in the morning. There's always the afternoon round. You can,
Right.
Yeah.
They know that I'm there if they really need like a backup. I could hop in. If everyone gets like the flu or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we had Raven on just last year. I believe she was doing camera work
a few weeks ago at Champions Cup.
Oh, was she at Champions Cup too? I just remember her.
She got an ace. Filmed the ace.
Oh, that's right. She did. There you go.
Filmed the ace on 17. Yeah, and she worked at All Stars this year. Yeah. I mean, if there's ever a tournament that I'm not playing in.
So if you're not, this weekend, I know you have this wedding thing, but maybe on Sunday back in your home area, I'll be there helping Q Series coverage. I mean, if you're,
is it a Friday or a Saturday wedding?
It's a Saturday wedding, but I'm not going to be back until Monday.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry, Terry. Otherwise,
you get all big time. I won an Elite Series. I don't need any camera work gigs in my hometown. I get it. You're big time. I get it. Ellen Widboom also, I know she had done a ton of work. She used to play in some mornings and then would go help Central Coast. She was catch cam. I think she's done some camera work for me one time or another. Her sister, who plays, also did camera work for me as part of my channel at Throwdown the Mountain a few weeks ago or a few months ago now. Yeah, it's incredible to see all this double dipping. And I've always said, and maybe you could set the record straight. I feel like personally, I think it's easier to teach a disc golfer to become a camera operator than to take the world's best camera operator and then teach them how to cover disc golf. What's your take on that?
I agree with that. Yeah, I remember in 2021, was it 20? No, 2020. I was catch cam at USDGC and Throw Pink, and I remember like Paige yelling at me to move. Not like yelling at me, but I was like standing right where she was aiming. She's like, "Hey, can you move like out of the way?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Paige is talking." And now I was like, of course, I went to her wedding last year. Like we're like good friends now. But it's so funny how that like kind of evolves, and definitely is helpful to know the sport that you are covering. And I think knowing the players obviously really helps of
Mm-hmm.
what kind of shots they might throw. And there's so many things to consider, what angles you want. I could talk about it for a while, probably.
To be fair, though, I don't trust Paige, because at Beaver State Fling a couple of years ago, you and I were out there covering it, and Paige was clearly the furthest thrower on the card, so I was catch cam. I went way out in the middle of the field, and she like waved me in. She's like, no, you're too far. She brought me in, and then proceeded to bomb it over my head on purpose. So I don't trust her anymore. Because I thought,
that's hilarious.
I've been playing a long time. I'm like, I kind of know how far Paige throws, but she's waving me in, and I was like, all right, I guess, and then throws it over my head. So
just trying to make fools of us out there.
I always feel good. Bobby Cox,
Mm-hmm.
who is worked for GK and does camera stuff for DGPT now. He's always the catch cam. He's probably the best catch cam I've seen. I could be wrong, but he has some really amazing catch cam shots, and it's always not to get turned around. So if I can ever throw a shot that turns him around, it's
Mm-hmm.
I feel so proud of myself.
Well, a little badge of honor while you're out there. I love it. Ella, we'll start to wrap up and let you go. But before we do that, give anyone and everyone love, shout out, recognition, thanks, sponsors.
Flowers. Everyone's saying flowers. Give them flowers.
The
now.
Flowers, I know, is the new thing. Give everyone their flowers. And recognize anyone and everyone. And maybe most importantly, how can people then continue to find and support you and follow along your journey?
Yeah. Well, obviously the biggest flower is to Discmania for being my main sponsor. Supporting me since the beginning. They took a risk on me in 2021, and I'm stoked that it's paid off for both of us. And then OTB, their tournament, shout out to Aaron for caddying for me, and just being awesome, supportive sponsors. Couldn't ask for a better retail sponsor. And then we got Whale Sacks, Pound, and Throwjoes. All three my other sponsors. Awesome people, awesome products. You can buy things on all their websites that help support me. Shout out to all the homies for getting champagne and spraying me and spinning me around and hugging me and all that. That was so cool. And shout out to Andy Rothschild, who was our star. Well, I think maybe John Toby. Andy Rothschild and John Toby, who are both SFDGC peeps, who were starting us and actually gave us roses on Sunday morning. And Andy had a bunch of little fidget toys out on the stage, and there was one that I was kind of playing with, and I was like, ooh, this is nice. And I was like, hey, Andy, can I take this for my round? And he was like, yeah, you can have that. And definitely used it a couple times. And then after one, he was like, I think you could keep that one. I was like, all right, deal.
Oh, nice.
Very, very cool. Well, awesome. Like you said, everyone can go out and find all of your sponsors, all very big names that we certainly know and recognize, and it's awesome to see that they've continued to support you in all those various ways. And certainly it'll be exciting when we see the Discmania commemorative disc get released. In fact, I missed a call from Dana today. That's the first thing I would have yelled at him is, hey, why isn't this out yet? So we'll make sure that gets out there and everybody can go out and continue to support you in that way. Any final thoughts or parting shots before we let you go tonight?
Oh, you can also follow me and Holland on YouTube. We did our first film practice round this week, so maybe that's also good luck. But we're trying to do a lot more of that this year and just kind of giving those course previews and talking about how we're seeing the course. And we're going to be doing more of that. So if you follow both of our channels, I think it's just each of our names on YouTube, that would be awesome. And you can follow me on Instagram at OneThrowElla.
Yes, and Bagel Powered on Twitter.
Yes,
if
on Twitter,
before that goes to die or whatever's going to happen there someday.
It's X. Yeah. Officially, it's X. They changed the domain.
I typed in Twitter today and it brought me there.
Your little thing in the.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I typed in Twitter today and it still got me to you.
It
so we'll.
I will never not call it Twitter. So.
Exactly.
So I'm with you.
Only quick follow up to that is before I let you go. Then is do you guys have a goal or an agenda to get that practice round out before the actual tournament? I know it's a ton of work and it's all right before it, but you want it to be a course preview for the rest of the world as well. Is that kind of the
yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This week was a little slow. I think we had it like Friday morning and Friday afternoon, but hopefully we'll be getting it out by at least Thursday for all the other times. I don't think we're doing every single week, but we'll try to do most of the big ones.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously, we've got a number of guys doing the MPO layouts, but to have a little more insight to the FPO layouts, I think helps just absolutely everybody, the fans, the commentators, and everyone else, including you guys, to do what you're doing. But it's what a great resource and tool. So, Ella, it was awesome. We say it all the time. We knew it was just a matter of, it wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when that win would come. This one being your biggest so far. And we couldn't be happier for you, and the rest of your friends, like you said, that surrounded you, I think is a testament to your demeanor, your personality, just everything that you embody out there on the course. And I think that was certainly celebrated and recognized by the entire disc golf community, even your closest competitors who you just got done whooping. The fact that they were that happy to see you take it down does speak volumes to your character. So congratulations again.
I think the only shock was that Owen wasn't the very first. She's almost always the very first person
to tackle.
She just get excited. She tried to hug me before while we were on the fairway.
Yeah, and you shut her down.
I wouldn't discredit her. I was like, I need to focus.
Chill out, Owen.
Once it's over, but yeah.
Well, again, thank you for joining us. We know you're busy with everything you got going on. Best of luck to you and your brother and your family. The wedding this weekend. Enjoy your weekend off from golf, and best of luck the rest of the year. I'm sure I'll be seeing you out there on the tour.
Sweet. Thank you both.
All right.
Thanks,
take care.
Ella.
Have a good night. You're champ. Ella Hansen.
Decisively.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of question there. At the end.
No, getting it done.
She played very well, earned a hard-fought victory with a very solid average round rating on top of that, if you want to care about any of that stuff. I think she averaged right just over 1,000 overall. So congratulations to Ella Hansen. We'll talk a little bit more about the FPO competitors. We'll go from there. Second place, Kat Murch, who shot the same as Ella that final round, a 62. Holland Hanley, as we discussed, unfortunately, shot a 70. She was 8 strokes off of the other competitors that final round. Just an unfortunate bad round. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it other than she just couldn't get it done in the final round. Holland Hanley, 3rd place. 4th place, as we talked about, Owen Scoggins. Owen, who, just barely missing the podium. 5th place is the interesting one. Kind of and kind of not. Paige Pierce.
Yeah, the 3-time champion at this particular course and event.
And played very well. And it really feels like she's starting to get her game back. It's starting to kind of come together. Her putting has been really good. It's just it feels like her drives have been off. Just not quite there for timing. So it's really good to see because I think... almost everybody wants to see Paige up near the top of this field, and it would make it much more exciting, especially with the news that we're going to talk about just probably right after this. Anakin in 6th place, 7th place, as we said, Madison Walker, who this might be her best finish of the year at 7th place. I know she had another really good finish earlier this year. Jessica Weiss in 8th place, and a 4-way tie for 9th between Natalie Ryan, Missy Gannon, Stacy Kiefer, and Hannah Wynn. So that is your top 10 for the FPO field.
Along with all of those and solid finishes, couple quick follow-ups. One, Paige made an update to her Instagram just today, talking about how she's happy with how she putted on 53 of the 54 holes. Her drives are going far, and
I watched that 3-putt or 4-putt she had. It was not pretty.
She said, "I'm feeling good on my commitment and timing. There's still and always will be things I need to work on, including getting up and down from 250 feet. Nothing worse than being closest to the basket and not taking advantage of the drive." And then went on to give flowers to everyone else, including, of course, the OTB staff.
Did she say give flowers?
Guys. No, she didn't.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing exactly what she did here. But yeah, so saw that post today. And then real quickly, also in the top 10, you just mentioned Hannah Wynn in the top 10. Solid weekend in performance. Also celebrated a birthday yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
A little late, but we'll go with a happy birthday and get it in there.
And I know the phrase is dead when you and I can start using it. The gift flower stuff.
Again, it's been around for a little while.
It's been around. It's just, it feels like it's been very hot the last, like, 2 3 months.
And it'll be dead in a few months.
And when I heard Ian say it on the broadcast this weekend, I'm like, yeah, it's officially over. And you know, when
dads are using
middle-aged dads, middle-aged white dads are using the term, that there's already something cooler and hipper out there. So hopefully we've killed it now. Speaking of killing it, let's go over to MPO. Back-to-back champion Kelvin Heimberg wins DDO, then follows it up with the OTB event. Totally blank.
3-letter word abbreviations.
Well, here was my thing. Kelvin, and maybe he can break the streak, only wins round trophies. DDO, the big globe. This one was the circular disc.
Yeah, that's this time, but he's won non-round trophies. Jonesboroughs have never been round.
I don't care.
And he's won a ton
this year. He's only won round trophies, and that's what I'm going with.
And I don't know that they're round in Vegas it
doesn't matter.
Think back to him. But okay, the 2 trophies he's won this year,
the 2 DGBT
in the last
trophies.
few weeks, have in fact been
round.
That's
it.
So
I'm nailing it.
Has Statmando reached out to you? Are they looking to employ you?
They might be.
All that great.
They might be.
All that great tracking.
I need Statmando to go back and look at all the trophies he's won and see how many of them are around. Okay, let's move on. So congratulations to Kelvin Heimberg, who wins by 2 strokes. Just puts his foot down on the competition, shooting a 10.53, 10.58, and a 10.62. Never once was it the hottest round, I believe, but ultimately just very, very, very consistent rounds the entire weekend, which is very Kelvin-esque. Second place. Again, a guy who I think I say this every week, we're talking about a lot, Gavin Rathbun. Really feels like he's coming into his own and getting over whatever injury he had last year or the year before, and the shoulder thing, that whatever exactly was the problem. It really feels like he's on it. And I think he might be my favorite player because of how fast he plays. He's so quick on the tee. He
doesn't really do a whole lot of dinking around or messing around up there.
No, I bet you it's hard to have nerves when you're not thinking about it and you're just doing it.
I think that's some of the strategy sometimes pays off for some competitors of always being in a quick routine so that you're not overthinking anything. And kind of always sticking to that. I mean, fair or not, look at all the time the Robinson brothers also. Very, very quickly, not maybe to that quite that quickness, but they pretty much step up and they throw, especially their putts. They just step up and throw relatively quickly. And I think there's a number of players that fit that category. And you're going to get flowers from me when you do that. I love it.
Just drive it to the ground. I love this.
We'll stomp on them.
We will stomp on these flowers. In third place, our guest later tonight, Randon Latta, shooting 24 under par, taking home $5,000. In fourth place, a tie with Gavin Babcock and Sullivan Tipton. So, yeah, that's right. 2 Gavins in the top 5. Congratulations. It's Gavin's weekend.
World.
It is Gavin's world. Sixth place, Ricky Wysocki, who we didn't really see a lot of, I feel like, this weekend. I mean, he was on coverage, but not a heck of a lot. So, sixth place was Ricky Wysocki, tied with Ezra Aderhold, who we did see on coverage a bit, and he as well had kind of a rough final round. He's kind of got that same thing Holland has right now, where it's just you need to find that extra gear when it comes to the final round. There's something, I don't know if it's nerves or what some people call choking or whatever, but it feels like in the final round, Ezra's putt tends to kind of fail him. So, but either way, he's putting himself in that conversation. He's very close, and I think that he's going to get there. Another Ezra Aderhold. Ezra Robinson. It's Zachary Nash. Ezra Robinson, 8th place, tied with Zachary Nash. And in 10th place, a 3-way tie, Double G, Andrew Marweed, and Bobby Burridge.
There you have it. And also of note, right below, I know they're not in the top 10 where we stopped, but clearly seeing Eagle McMahon bounce back to maybe more so what he and others would have hoped or expected. He had a very rough go at it with Champions Cup. He
sense.
talked about that extensively. Lots of different things going on there. So to see him come back, clearly there would be a lot more concern and challenge and conversation if he followed up his Champions Cup with, we'll say, an abysmal effort out here at this event. Not the case.
Much more accommodating to a far thrower who doesn't
with a little more space,
who doesn't necessarily have the exact touch that he wants or needs right now, but I'm sure he'll get there. And the only other thing before we bring our guest on, Paul McBeth was in the conversation.
Yeah, very much
most of the weekend. He had
opened with a hot round. Time for the hot round.
And he had a rough second round, had some awful putting. But then the third round, he was playing very well until he wasn't. He started out very hot and then kind of cooled off. But ultimately, Paul back in the conversation. I'm sure the competitors are feeling it a little bit from that.
Yeah, and some may have gotten comfortable with seeing him not as deadly as obviously he once was, and he's still trying to write that story as to whether or not he's going to come back and reclaim some of the position that he once had. So coincidentally, what a funny segue. The first time I ever met our guest was when I was had the pleasure of being also at Throwdown the Mountain, as I have been for so many years. And there was a youngster staying there. I think he was still in high school, and he may have even still been playing advanced that particular year. Myself, Paul McBeth were there, and this other Florida fella was trying to get some work done, and now this weekend shows up, takes third place at the OTB Open, and I'm talking about none other than Randon Latta. Welcome to the show, buddy.
It's good to be here, guys.
It's good to see you. Randon, I was doing the math earlier today. Was that 2016 when you were a teenager when we met?
Yeah, I believe so. 15 or 16.
Okay. Well,
it would have been 15 or 16. So
yeah, it's been a minute. I've watched you grow up right in front of my own eyes here. As here you are with this incredible performance this weekend, finishing in third place, and ultimately a tie for hottest round of the entire weekend at 13 under.
Yep.
What does that mean, knowing the caliber of players were at the OTB Open this weekend, and by the time you left on Sunday night, you have a share of the course lead? The course record? What does that mean to you, if anything?
Oh man, I don't know if it's really set in. It just seems simple when you're playing that well. I think back to last year when all the times Colvin shot a course record, and it still took him another couple months to get a win. And it was kind of a joke in our group. He just sets course record, doesn't finish the tournament, and so it just, I think, speaks to the style of game I have. Maybe being able to throw a little further and place close, windy, open course like that. So
yeah, your stature is not towering. It's certainly not the likes of what I've seen, at the same time when I was meeting Calvin Heimberg, for instance. Talk, if you were to describe your game as a not so incredibly tall gentleman, how would you describe your overall game and your strengths?
Yeah, I don't think 5'8" counts as being very tall at all.
I mean, that's where I am, so I'm not. I'm not.
You're not judging.
I can't throw any shade because I'm not tall enough to do so in this case, literally.
Well, that makes me feel better. I'm in the company of good people. Paul McBeth, I think of too. He got the job done for many years.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I've just always wanted to throw. I was even smaller as a teenager and as a young boy, so being able to throw this far seemed like it was making up for that. It was making up for the lack of height or size. And I think it just progressed through the years, to a little more controllable golf style distance. And it certainly helps when we play a lot of that in the Open all year. You're throwing the same disc, they're not super beat in. You can really just learn your bag pretty well and get used to throwing hyzer flips and hyzers.
Now, you looking at this year, I mean, I think and it's no shade, but you look at this year and we see that on the Elite Series, there's a couple events you haven't cashed, and you have a 52nd, a 52nd, a 57th, a 44th, a 28th, and then the previous best before this weekend was 11th. So the question I think is, what'd you do this weekend? Like, how did it all come together for you?
You know, it's funny because last week in Las Vegas, on Sunday, I played my worst round in like 3 years. It was like 920 rated. And I just, took an evening to process that and think about how much that did in me and what I needed to do to keep that from happening again and the good things to focus on. And throughout practice during that week, I was just reminded of that through hanging out with people and traveling to California for basically my first time. And yeah, I just really wanted to find a routine out on the course and do the best I could and forget that I played 150 points lower rated a week ago. So, yeah, I don't know. It's the year's definitely been getting better and better. This time last year, I had hardly cashed at all. So, in the couple events that I did miss cash this year, it was only by a stroke or two, except for Jonesboro. That was a handful. But yeah, I mean, the road life just has its ups and downs. And this week, California treated me well.
Yeah, and
no better place, honestly.
Yeah,
if you need the cash, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, and so this weekend, $5,000. Is that your largest ever paycheck?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So obviously feels good. Yeah, I guess I am looking 5,000 at this one event. You have roughly 8,300 for the year as a total. So 5,000 certainly is significant. What, for those who may not know you as well as I do, because I see you a bunch of times, what is your tour life, your tour situation like? What is that all composed of or comprised of here in 2024? What's it look like for you?
There's a lot more Airbnbs, hotels, just willing to spend a little more money to be comfortable. In years past, host house. I think the first year on the road, I traveled with Kevin Kiefer in his vehicle, and I think we only paid for like 3 places all year. So it was a lot of couches, ways, whatever you could do to save money. And this year, I've kind of gotten a little more money to be comfortable, and it feels like it's paying off. Usually an Airbnb, a few of the other young guys on tour. I mean, I had mentioned Cole Redallen, Sullivan Tipton, Kevin Kiefer. I mean, there's a lot of us in the young adults group on tour that really stick together. It helps us save money and travel, and I know it certainly helps our parents with a peace of mind. So.
Now
I don't know. Like if a bunch of young 20-something dudes wandering around the country, I don't know as a parent if I would feel comfortable with that. Like, I know you guys are all good kids, but man, I can just think like some night they're gonna get into a lot of trouble.
No, not these guys. I'll bust into that and say, you guys. I feel like if you guys find trouble, it's probably on the more innocent end of trouble, so to speak, right? I mean, you guys very respectable and respectful, and it might be some silly trouble, but let's put it this way, we're not busting these guys in some kind of brothel in some city or state that they shouldn't be at. That's just not the way these guys roll.
Oh, well, all right.
Until you do, and then
well,
no.
Yeah, just stay away from Terry. That's all I have to say. Like,
I'm not claiming I am either. I'm just saying,
sure.
I know where these guys aren't. I will vouch for that much. Yeah, so that's kind of your crew that you are currently caravanning with, so to speak. Is that a fair way to put it? You guys kind of all plan together to some degree?
Yeah, I mean, none of us have a vehicle to sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we chose that route to save money on gas and maybe just didn't feel feel like staying at campsites or on the course property. So like I travel in a Honda Civic. There's not much room in there, but it sure is nice to drive around. You can put cruise control on at 80 miles an hour vans or hogging doing 70. So I don't know. We definitely caravan, try to work together, and so far the last few years, this is my third year doing it, and it's going good.
Yeah, what kind of confidence, or what does this say to you? A third place finish. How do you look into the rest of the year with maybe adjusting some goals or figuring out a game plan? What do you do looking forward now after this third place finish?
It's hard to think. Okay, let's just do the same things. Let's listen to music, eat the same food, sleep at the same time, just to try to recreate what you had done. But I think that's the beauty of the road life is there's no weeks. They're all a little different, and the courses are always a little different, and you just have to feel comfortable. Some weeks I do fine without practice, and other weeks I practice Monday to Thursday. So I think probably when I best is when I've convinced myself that there's no secret formula and there's no expectations, and we're just going to go play disc golf. I mean, that round Sunday didn't feel like anything that different. Things just lined up, and I was staying away from bogeys and sort of inside the circle, and that made it a lot easier. And so,
when it's easy, right? Like it just, like you said, it's a walk in the park, like you're playing a casual round with your buddies, and everything just going your way. You just mentioned this is your third year. Is there anything you've yet to discover in terms of the courses and in terms of preparation? Have you seen essentially all the things you're going to play this year? Have you seen them before now? Is there anything still new for you?
The preserve will be new.
Okay.
For me. I've only played in Minneapolis as a kid at Worlds in 2015. And there a decade. And
yep.
I think that's about it. I know I'm going to play a few A tiers here and there, like going to Cascade this weekend, we did last year. I'll go to Toronto for the Diameter Open sometime in the fall. So I think I've played about all the courses now, and I do think that helps a lot. I mean, this was my first time here at Swenson Park, but there really wasn't a whole lot to figure out. Just keep it in bounds and negotiate the wind as best you can. But I think it's a big where you're going. The towns are going where you're going to stay possibly, and definitely having a more like a feel for the course, being there a few times.
Okay. Because I'm coming out there tomorrow, I'm going to lean into you a little bit. Have you then played over here at the Shelton Springs course where the Q Series event for the Pro Tour is taking place starting this weekend? Have you played it, and if so, what are your thoughts on it? What should we all expect?
Yeah, we played a Silver Series there last year, and one of my favorite woods courses. I wasn't planning on playing it this year. I didn't even want to play this coming week, and in preparation for Portland being an Elite Plus. I'm ready to play in the woods again. I missed out on Champions Cup in Northwood Black. It's like one of my favorites. So, middle of last week, and I won't even get there till Thursday. But it's a super fun track. A lot of technical par threes and really fun par fours that, if you throw farther like me and you can get way down the fairway, it will get you in trouble. I just like playing in the woods so much, so I needed to come out here and play that tournament for sure.
Knowing of your roots, since I've met you, have been in Florida, and then to hear you say you love playing in the woods, what do you consider the most challenging and or wooded course in Florida? If that somebody may or may not even know about, what would you even consider that to be?
So mine is Palmetto Point, or PPP, which is like in the middle of the state towards Lakeland, Orlando area. Super fun type. It's a little different though. A lot more low ceiling and mud and sand. The fairways aren't as gorgeous as you'd see somewhere like Hilton Springs, or like my favorite on the planet was W.R. Jackson. Northwood Black is also full. I've played a few in like this area that are really, really cool, like Angry Beaver, but Florida doesn't have stuff like that. It's just a little bit different. It's tighter, and the fairway just less briars and vine, or like palm fronds, and watch for snakes. So
snakes and gators.
Yeah, different obstacles for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, again, meeting you and originally seeing you at the Road on the Mountain, or the Grand Canyon / Olympus now. It took me a minute. I feel like that's probably one of the more demanding courses overall that's in Florida as well. And I have to assume, even though you didn't play particularly well there this year, I have to assume that's ranks as one of your favorite in the state, at least.
Oh, definitely. It has so many cool amenities that you just wouldn't see in Florida. Completely beside the fact that it's a good course. It's super challenging, like you said. And now it's got the Honk Beth helping build it into something even more special. And it's already such a statement for Florida disc golf. You ask anybody in the state, that's 1, 2, or 3, no doubt. And it's definitely up there in my book.
Yeah, awesome.
So.
Well, I'm hoping that you perform well, or we'll see you on coverage this weekend. I'm excited. This will be my first time out to Shelton Springs in terms of coverage and hanging out there. So I know we'll have at least one card, MPO lead card feature, and then lead card, or however it all shakes out. When you look at a wooded course like this, how do you have to change your mentality coming off of a Swenson to then say, hey, I'm going to go to a very different style of course? Do you switch up your bag, or do you do anything else differently?
Well, my bag certainly doesn't much. I hardly ever change my bag depending on the courses. I've had discs in my bag for 8 years now, so it's a matter of kind of dialing it in. It'll be throughout the round, somebody practice, but I think that's one of the benefits to me throwing kind of like a hyzer flip on all my shots, even when I'm going for distance or anything. I don't get afraid to see. I kind of just throw it towards the ground on a certain angle. I have certainly like that with. So as long as somewhere next days I figure that out, I don't have to change. I think the only thing I have to remind myself is I can't be too aggressive. I can't expect to throw fast discs like I did last week. I didn't throw many putters or mid-range, so it's a little different. I'm kind of just hoping those are going to be flying and feeling the same way they were whenever I was throwing them. But yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of playing in the woods. It really, just sculpts your game, shows you where you're lacking.
Yeah, and it also tells us how good your scrambling is. It tells you, shows us, do you really have a forehand? How good can you maintain composure? Your mental state of mind, how frustrated you get after you hit first tree available. I mean, there's so many more components that certainly could be of challenge to you. Randon, we're going to let you go here pretty soon because you're incredibly choppy, and I think it's just kind of hard for people to understand. If we really intently listen, we can certainly hear you, but it's choppy. Maybe this is just a precursor that if you perform well and or win this weekend, then we're going to have you back next weekend on a better connection. But before we let you go, give some shout outs, how people can follow you, how people can support you, what keeps you on the road, who's your biggest support network. Give all the flowers, as we say.
And there's a lot of people who help me and support me. It's been incredible the last few years, meeting people on the road, back home, friends and family. And my new sponsor this year out of Memphis City, it's actually not a disc golf store at all. They're not even related to it. I met them last year and really wanted to provide and help me stay on the road. It's a store, and a bit of a silly, but it's the store down on Beale in downtown Memphis. And super supportive people, and they're helping me stay on the road, along with obviously Innova Champion Disc. This is my 11th year with them. I mean, they really feel like a family, and they're super supportive, and everybody that I stay in contact with and help get the information I need and everything. So they're amazing, and all my friends back home. Eagles Wings series, went on a project last year to Alaska with them and helped design a course. Clinics was really cool. They're great support as well. So yeah, I could go on all day about people who have helped me along the way. It's been a long.
No, it's awesome. Well, you unfortunately you cut off, so we want you to get it in there again. Who's the company out of Memphis?
Walking Pants Curiosities.
Walking Pants Curiosities.
Okay. Yeah. That's for me. It's always exciting. I think it is for any disc golf when you have someone like you just mentioned that isn't necessarily tied directly to disc golf, non-endemic or non-specific, as Sean Jack might say, to be bringing in these companies that are looking to support our players or our events that aren't necessarily directly tied. And so the fact that you have someone from outside of our sport supporting you, I think is absolutely awesome to hear as well. So very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Randon. Congratulations on a heck of a weekend. It's so easy to watch you week in and week out, and to know that you're just kind of building. These are all been building blocks for you over these last few years to see where you're going and what you're doing. I know we say to a lot of young players, it's not really a matter of if you'll win an event. It's just a matter of when that's going to be. And this weekend, coming out with a statement of having a good first 2 days, but then this incredible third round to be a share of a course record with the likes that are at that tournament, I think has to put you on notice for everyone else to know of your skill set. So solid work and great performance out there. It was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right. With that being said, Randon, we're going to let you go. I look forward. I'll see you in a couple days. We can talk more in person, and hopefully we'll be seeing you on a lead card with some more coverage. And like I said, one way or another, maybe we're talking to you again in another week. If you can take down this Cascade Challenge or have another good performance, whatever the case might be, we're looking forward to it. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course. Thank you guys.
All right. Take care.
Thanks a lot, Randon.
Randon Latta out of Florida.
He's going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to make one of those lead cards. I mean, we call this a Q series event, a qualifying series event. And, we don't have the silver events here in the U.S. like like you referenced last year. Ricky Wysocki took this down on the MPO side last year. Cat Merch took it down on the FPO side last year. Cat's defending this year. Ricky is not. And I've called him a big baby for that. But I don't blame him.
But you're right. It's going to be a stout field.
Yeah, he's got 1040 Ezra Robinson, Aaron Gossage, Alden Harris, not local, but Scotty Withers, who's from Oregon.
PNW.
Yep, from the PNW. Jesse Niemanen, who's off of his DGPT win a few weeks ago. Una Heinonen, Kevin Kiefer, Chandler Kramer, Evan Scott, Nico, Chandler Fry, Zach Nash, Connor Rock,
who just won Vegas.
Yep, who we had on just last week.
So, yeah.
He's got, he's like the 15th or 20th rated pro there. So if he wants to get on some coverage, he needs to shoot like he did. Just keep that momentum.
Yeah.
The momentum
That's
going.
all there is to it.
So, and you're going to be covering the Q series. So everybody knows where they can find it. Is this going to be next day coverage, Terry?
Oh, don't promise that. Yes, it is.
I didn't promise anything. I asked.
It's a good question. Right now, what we're working on
it.
is that we are planning on at least giving you MPO next day post-production coverage. It's a very small crew that's going to be part of the operation, but it's going to be MPO post-production next day coverage that we'll be getting out. It will all be on the Disc Golf Guy channel. We're also filming the FPO side as well every morning, and we're going to work to turn that also around as quickly as possible. I will not be guaranteeing that it's next day. That is not going to be the case, most likely. Almost for sure.
Slacker.
But
Sexist.
it will be
Jerk.
coming out within a few days, worst case scenario. So, yeah, I was going to check in with Gatekeeper. I wonder how many they had at Vegas. How many total people pulling off
56? I think I heard.
Yeah,
56 people,
media people to pull off. Yeah, that's practically what you need for MPO and FPO. We know that Jomez does it. Jomez has a team far more expansive than what ours is for this weekend. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited for the coverage. I'm excited for the event. The people, the locals. Mark Hill, who's one of our biggest smashies. I know he's going to be around and out in that area.
Town.
Now I'm going to be in his town. Wow. Yes. Looking forward to it, but you will find that all on my channel this upcoming weekend. And Edit Life. With that, I'll just quickly get the plug in there that today also released a little action from last year's border battle. Ryan Pilcher, fellow Smashy, along with Tim Courts, Smashy, who did the artwork for it. Ryan last year had the idea of, hey, him and a buddy were going to film the event, and then we were going to get it eventually edited all together, figure out the commentary, do all that stuff. Well, long story long, it all has come to fruition. It's all done.
Wow.
It was released today. Gives you plenty of time to review the course for this upcoming year's event, which isn't for a few more weeks. It's out there. So there's some fresh content. I figured, hey, no better time than now when everybody's consumed everything from this weekend. You've got 18 new holes. Everybody says, man, I'd love to see more local coverage.
No one says that.
They say it.
No one does.
I love it. I love local coverage. You should give the little lesser known names, you should get them on coverage more.
I do hear a little bit of that.
I've done that. So you've got coverage you can go watch on the channel, and it's available to you. All
right, let's talk a little bit more results. We kind of briefly touched on it. The 2024 PDGA Women's Global event happened this past weekend. As we discussed, Holland Hanley edges out our guest Ella Hansen by a 1/10 of a point.
Insane.
Congratulations to Holland. Third place, Kat Murch, Cadence Burge. Cadence Burge. Thank you. God, I was so focused on the last name.
Candace?
I said Candace. I totally did. Cadence. Yeah, Cadence Burge. Owen Scoggins, Eliezer Midling, Addison Woodward, Hannah Wynn, Saya Nanda, Paige Pierce, Stacy Kiefer, Madison Walker. That's your top 12. There were a total of 155 events, 3,543 total players.
Insane.
Yeah. Just to keep scrolling down and down and down, and there's all sorts of other divisions and winners, and it's a lot. So just a huge shout out. We're going to give all the flowers to the division champions and everyone who competed, to be honest. This is not, obviously everyone's looking to win and play well, but really this event has exploded over the last 5 years, and it's great to see from it become an idea a decade ago to this. So it's great. It's phenomenal. Love it.
Yeah, I'll quickly just throw it into the chat right now, and if I can, I'll try and remember to also put the link, make it a little easier for you guys to find, so you can go out and check out all the different divisions that were available and that were out there. It was pretty cool to see 360 360, 370 or so just in the FPO division alone. And the fact that we saw posts coming in from truly all over the world. I saw a couple updates from some friends I know in Malaysia. We see Cassie Sweeten and others that are coming in from Australia and all the different countries, obviously, again, all around the globe. But yeah, what an incredible effort and overall experience for everybody. So nice work out there.
The only other news that we really have, PDGA news, came out on Friday. The PDGA board approved updated bylaws. What does that mean? Not a heck of a lot. If you're a wonk on nonprofits and how they're built and all this other things, then it might mean something to you. More or less, it says, if you read the article, it's out on the PDGA page, what they've done is they've taken the bylaws of the Professional Disc Golf Association and they've made them simpler. They made them easier to read. It's a lot less lawyer talk, a lot less legalese in the bylaws. They've broken out some of the positions.
Okay.
And again, if you want to know more about this, by all means, please, it's your board, it's your PDGA. Go out and read the bylaws. You can find them on the PDGA page. They're linked. They went into effect immediately as of Friday. This isn't really going to change anything in your day-to-day life as far as PDGA playing goes, but it does kind of slightly adjust what's going on at the top of the PDGA. So just a note to put it out there. I think all that stuff is kind of a little interesting every now and again.
It is, and what I think, one of my favorite kind of subsets to that is the fact that there's plenty of information if you spend the 10 seconds to look for it. And this is clearly applicable.
10 seconds too long for me.
Applicable to all of us in lots of facets of different things going on in the world, rather than just spouting off at the mouth and or making some wild assumptions and screaming and whining or complaining or yelling loudly or whatever. A few seconds of research will probably lead you to your answer. Guess you have to decide how valid that answer is. As I've been going down the flat Earth rabbit hole lately, but
oh my god, the fact that you'd admit that.
Well, I'm entertaining these things that are sent to me, and they're classic. But anyway, point is, when you're going out to the PDGA page, there's a ton of answers out there. People know Johnny and I do support and have been supportive members of the PDGA for nearly 30 years. 25 to 30,
25.
Roughly.
Let's stick with 25.
Yeah, it's closer to 30 than 25. But
shut your mouth.
At any rate, but that doesn't mean they do everything perfect, and they is still us. I even feel silly saying they. We're all part of the PDGA, or you can be very easily, and there's a ton of answers to your questions if you go out there and you look for them and do a little bit of just a little bit of research and or reading. It's probably there rather than some crazy assumption. Not to say things can't be improved upon, because we can all improve, but stuff's out there. That can we immediately transition or segue right over to a PDGA consideration this weekend that unfortunately kind of led the headlined for the first day or two at the OTB Open was the spotter gentleman that was in the water that had interfered with Madison Walker's disc that was out of bounds. I'll just go quickly with my take on it. I don't think it's incredibly surprising to most. I understand what he did. I would go as far as saying he should not have interfered with the disc. I understand why he did it. I would have rather seen him not interfere with it. I do not believe that it would come back in bounds. However, that to me is kind of that's a little bit of hindsight 2020. I understand the natural reaction to him doing it, and know, as a good rule of thumb for all of us, myself included, as many hundreds of thousands of shots I've seen in a competitive or non-competitive capacity, an instinct to not let a disc, we'll say, get away like that spotter was doing. I can understand it being there, just this natural instinct to help or to stop or to whatever. There's plenty of shots that still come at me as a on-course reporter, and I could be in a very similar situation where I'm like, oh, that's obviously going out of bounds, or that's whatever, where I really have to fight and restrain myself from just not trying to be helpful, because it feels like the right thing to do, but it absolutely isn't. Now, with all of that said, Madison had made a very direct, specific response and statement to the world of saying, basically, stop giving this guy a hard time. It was helpful. I talked to him before it. I made a joke before it, blah, blah, blah. She was good with it. I think the lesson, even if that is the case, is yes. First of all, we don't need to grab this guy out of the water and hang him up by his toes like some people wanted to do. But yeah, so long and short of it, you're probably better off leaving the disc as it is. And Madison was not nearly as worked up as the internet was about it. But
and the funny thing is,
the bigger lesson is, yeah, there's
a rule that allows you to do this if agreed upon by the player beforehand. Like if for instance you're looking at a death putt, you could have someone stand behind you and say, hey, if this is going to go in the water,
you can stop
it, please. Now the gentleman was already in the water. He was really saving it from going into a worse area where, in theory, the disc may not have been recoverable.
Correct. Yes.
And because if it goes into those
reeds and
the high reeds, he might not be able to get in there. You might not be able to see it. I understand. You're right. Ultimately, the right decision, unfortunately, would have been to let it go and just maybe see if it would have taken a funny skip or a hop or a slide or whatever that might be. But like you said, Madison handled it like a champ. It wasn't coming back in bounds. There's a 99.99999% chance it was gone. And so he saved a disc in that 0.00001% chance. I think it's a conversation that shouldn't be a conversation ultimately.
Well, in every situation such as this, there is still obviously some applicable lesson to be learned. I think that's a fair statement, because naturally people are going to see that and they're going to. People were largely torn. Is this something that you really agree with or disagree with? And then what's your logic for it?
Well, and the funny thing is, and granted, I don't believe this was the case. There are instances where the internet didn't know, but play pretend that spotter was there for a reason to say, hey, don't let discs go into this area.
Mm-hmm.
Stop them if you can. But before the internet even knew what the thing, and granted, that wasn't the case, people were all up in arms about it. So that swampy marsh wetland area that he stopped the disc from going into, I mean, there is a potential where the TD could have said, hey, your job is to sit here, grab discs, and if they're going to go into that area, maybe try to stop them if they're whatever. But I mean, there is something to learn here if you are going to be a volunteer, if you're going to be all that stuff.
Well, let's twist this even a little.
Oh, keep twisting.
Turn
Terry.
the dial just a little bit more and say, if that didn't happen on the lead card at this event where the drone was stationed, we would have never seen it.
No one would have known. There's a chance he has done that to another disc.
So
somewhere on the 5th or 8th or 10th
sure
card.
Not only that, but just the fact that the broadcast had an additional angle that Madison had no idea it happened.
Correct.
She had no idea how close it was. She said she knew she turned it over, it was burning over, it was going to stay out of bounds. She knew all of that, and that was her assessment of it. She had no idea how it went down, and quite frankly, no one else on the card did. It was only because we happened to have a drone angle of it. So if you want to take that and maybe as a bigger lesson and start talking about, people always talk about video evidence and whether it's taking pictures or having a replay or things that are so obvious as an OB call or whatever, or a spot or whatever the case might be. Mm-hmm. All of those arguments now talk about how this drone was really only applicable and practical for this one card in this one scenario. And if that drone shot doesn't happen, none of this conversation probably happens, or it becomes at least a lot more hearsay. Now, somebody up who's watching, and saw the spotter do it, then could have relayed it. Then it becomes a big old game of telephone, because that would be really interesting without seeing it with our own eyes, so to speak. How somebody who saw that was like, dude, it was totally coming back, and then he stopped it versus what appeared to be
that was definitely high enough where it was going to clear the.
That's where this all gets really funny, is because we happen to have a drone on that one shot on the lead card, and it's just another layer to the overall story, because Madison had no idea coming out of her hand that it was going to result in the way that it did. So I think also one of the big criticisms maybe that was thrown out there were people saying, per the rules, that she could have in theory rethrown because of that interference.
Intentional interference.
Yeah, she could have rethrown. She didn't know.
Yeah.
And so who can tell her? Is like think about the scenario of how does that get relayed to her? Only the broadcast. Is it a friend watching the broadcast? Is it someone in the booth? Is it someone in replay? Is it an official that was told, hey, this happened? We've gone
down that path, Terry.
That's my point. Like think about the melee that was the conversation from a few years ago at Champions Cup to how things could have been, quote unquote, benefited to Madison in this case. Just think, somebody from control room or there's somebody on the course. There's a caddy on the course listening to the broadcast. And the caddy's walking down the fairway. Madison's caddy's walking down the fairway, listening to the broadcast. And all of a sudden, this is said, the replay gets done. And the caddy's like, whoa, wait, Madison. They just said on the broadcast that
he intentionally interfered with the disc.
A lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, but that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not black and white overall. So
no, I'm with you. And as Tim Court says, it's bad optics.
Agreed.
Dutch
totally agree.
Dutch, who I think I kind of agree with here, says that he doesn't like the idea of having someone in the water at all during the round while people are playing the course. I can understand that. I do think it maybe looks a little amateurish as a sport to have someone, which is funny because I never really thought about it for something like MVP on hole 14.
I was just going to say, like, 14 MVP.
Yeah, but if you don't have someone there, those discs are gone. Period. Like, you will recover some of them, but not nearly to the amount that we have seen in the past. You get maybe a third of those discs back after, if you don't have someone in the water during the thing. Now, you could argue, hey, guess what? We don't want that for the lead card. We want to get rid of the optics. I don't know. I don't know if we need to. I don't know if we should be normalizing that, where it's okay, where at some point everyone just like, yeah, there's a guy in the water getting discs from people who throw them in there. Like, whoopity-doo. Or if we should look for something what some may call a more professional look and not have anyone in the water and just kind of have the water.
Well, exactly to your point, well, let's use hole 5 at MVP as a better example, only because it's earlier in the round. If Mark Verrocchi is out there on hole 5 and you put one 20 feet out there on the turnover over the water or whatever, or hyzer, I suppose, you put it out there, out in the water on 5, the first water hole of MVP.
Technically, you could go in the water on 4, but okay.
Sure, that too, sure. But he retrieves it, hands it back to you. You're on hole 5, and he just handed you your favorite turnover disc or your favorite, forehand hyzer disc, whatever. He's able, because he happens to be right there, he's able to bring it ashore. And by the time you're, if he doesn't hand it to you right then and there, by the time you're walking down hole 6, because there was a big backup, by the time you're walking down 6, somebody is handing you that disc that you just lost on 5. That has a very different implication if Mark's not on that hole, right? Or he's not there all day. And then you think about, well, how is that different versus if he's on hole 14 much later in the round? Does it matter? Because it could have been your favorite driver or it could have been your favorite putter that you put in, depending on how that hole played out for you. It is, you could start really get nitpicky about when and where, kind of like how we talk about cameras being in certain places, even someone like a retriever being in a certain place that's there for some, but maybe not necessarily for others. Or Mark, who's not this guy at all, but Mark is really bitter and vindictive and hates that someone hates some particular person that threw in the water, and he's like, I don't know, it went
Can't
down
find it.
3 feet in front of me, and I couldn't find it. Meanwhile, he's standing on it at the bottom of the. Again, that's not Mark, but there's a lot of these funny scenarios that talk about playing out. But to Dutch's point. Yeah, there's something about optics. Terry Roddy, who is a consultant for some live broadcasting, who works for the PGA Tour. I saw him within one of the posts from this weekend, and he just flat out said, get that guy out of the water. Just like in general, like there shouldn't be a guy in the water in play in that scenario. That's one perspective from somebody who does work on the PGA Tour. I don't know exactly what the right answer is. It was an interesting scenario, but I mean, Madison herself basically said, this guy's a volunteer. I'm okay with what he did. STFU is pretty much what she said in this case. Now, let's be fair. Swap out Madison for a lot of other players, and you don't get that same response.
Well, I'm going to throw Madison under the bus here. As someone said, you bring that to hole 17.
Final day, final round, final day, tied.
Madison's tied or down by 1 going into it. She's throwing in the water. If you have the opportunity,
let's say she sees it.
Yeah, if she sees it, you have the opportunity to take that again. Do you take it? I mean, would you be wrong to take it if you flat out knew that was not going to come in bounds?
Mm-hmm.
But
somebody interfered.
Someone interfered, and it gives you the opportunity to move to hole 18 with a chance to win. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard decision. Now, granted, knowing Madison, she'd probably still let it go, but
some other player might not.
But there are other players who might not.
They wouldn't be invalid for saying so. Here's maybe my final thought is, I know we're all about outrage and cancel culture and everything else.
Are we going to cancel this guy?
Well, clearly. I mean, people wanted to drag him out, kick him out of the park, ban him. I read it. I don't think I read it all, but I read quite a bit of it. Like, just, all but put this guy in front of a firing squad for F's sakes. And then on the flip side, there's plenty of people who were like, it wasn't going to come back in bounds. He's doing a favor. No big deal. Mm-hmm. I'm good with whatever. Let's just get consistent. Like, remember, were we gonna drag this kid off the course that got hit by an AB disc at Vegas 2 years ago? At 500 feet away, that was inbounds, that stopped him, and shirts were made, and we're ready to
umbrella,
lose it.
Umbrella,
Ricky,
the water bottle at James Memorial. Conrad. Yeah, God, go back. The camera person at Memorial many years ago. The year after Dodge took over, the camera person got hit. They were on the left-hand side of the fairway. Someone, I think, threw a forehand. It caught them, and I think it kept them out of bounds. And there were people so upset about that, so upset about the camera operator getting in the way. And we see it like once a year. A camera operator gets bumped or hit, or a disc slides into them. Hit in the head.
What is that guy doing standing there on the green?
Why is he getting
clubbed by McMahon or whatever? And I'm not trying to make light of it, but and I'm not suggesting like, oh, shit happens. Who cares what we do? I'm clearly not suggesting that either. I do find it funny that depending on where you are on this given weekend, you're outraged, because there's more than one person or entity that I saw lost it about one thing, but then let this one slide, or vice versa.
I mean,
I think at least be consistent if you're gonna.
No, that's not the way. That's not the way of the world.
No, why do that? So, anyway, I hate that it, for the first 2 days, was one of the biggest conversation pieces of the entire event.
Yeah.
And then third day, our champions and some great stories unfolded and continued to be the ultimately the story. But it was, it got us to talk over the weekend. So that says something.
Yeah, that's true. We did chat about it. Okay, we're going to talk about some bigger news, more relevant to the FPO field. Kristin Tattar announces that she's withdrawing from the Portland Open and Beaver State Fling because she broke her rib, of all things. She put out a social media post saying that she was doing some home renovation, seemed to get, tripped up on something, fell, and broke a rib. Now, and she says 4 weeks for recovery time. I'm going to tell you right now, I think 4 weeks, and I don't know if it's a cracked rib or broken, like exactly the extent. I don't think you're going to be healed up in 4 weeks with the way that our bodies do. It's not like football where you can kind of put like a flak vest on and you're not doing as much twisting like we are. You're running, you're getting hit hard in football, things like that. But I don't know, the way that our players turn and twist a lot, I just think that 4 weeks could be optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be probably not the first to come out and say, if she's back in 4 weeks, she might not be the same Kristin Tattar that we're used to seeing. It might take 6 to 8 before she really maybe feels comfortable. But ultimately, we're going to see a field without our most dominant player in it. It's kind of funny because when she shows up, it really feels like, and rightfully so, all eyes are on her. She's the favorite to win. Everybody else is taking second. That's out the door. The field is wide open now for Portland, for Beaver State, or whatever other events are coming up that she was going to play at that she may not play at now, or she might not play up to her capability. It's going to make the FPO field, I think, even more interesting because there were some people that were starting to get, I'll say, and then maybe this more last year, a little bored with Tattar's dominance. And granted, I personally like to see dominance, but it's a wide open field now, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know that, this year clearly she hadn't come out with quite the vengeance that she had last year, and she was certainly trending more recently in the right direction. So I don't think it's like, oh, well, we just, we're going to wipe a couple wins off of her record and they're going to obviously go to someone else now. I don't necessarily know that was a foregone conclusion. But yes, there's no doubt that our first ever 1,000 rated woman and one of the just overall best competitors we have, there's no doubt that she was a favorite and we would expect her to perform well. We'll see. Never having rib issues. I keep a lot of padding and protection.
You wear your flak jacket all the time?
Yeah, I want to keep them good and covered and protected.
Safety first, Harry.
That's what I'm here for. It's the safety component. I can't speak to any of that from any experience, and we'll just have to see what she says and how she comes back. But there's obviously some disappointment from fans knowing that she was just going to be part of the champs versus chumps, that she was going to be in Portland, which is a very enthusiastic and very supportive and enthusiastic disc golf crowd and a great one to play in front of, all of those types of things. And she made the post saying, yeah, I'm going to now focus on a few other things since I won't be throwing. And then she put up 2 hand-drawn pictures of both, I think, were of birds. I know I remember one was. Is it fair to say it's almost annoying that it seems like everything she touches, she's good at, when then you see that you then, because you see this incredible photography, which she's talked about. She's like, oh yeah, I could see in another world that I, do something in that category. Then you see her doing these drawings. We know that she's gotten certified in this other program that she was doing in her off time. Like, she's doing all these types of things. It just seems like she's obviously a very committed and driven and overall talented person. But yeah, I guess we're going to have to just kind of wait back and see and hope that she has a speedy recovery for her sake. And I don't know what a rib injury will do to you long term. We talk about like a Macbeth or a McMahon who have these different types of injuries, obviously Paige with her foot, and some of those things are to be determined. You really don't know. We've never really heard people talk about ribs too much within our sport.
No.
So this may even be kind of a first, at least at this scale or at this level of competitor. So I think about she obviously relies on her forehand a lot. Which rib is it, if it's her right ones versus her left one, and then how that would particularly
which side
impact her forehand. Now,
obviously we wish her the best. We want her to get healthy. We want to see her, especially for like the European Open, Crocal, whatever she's planning on playing over there. Hopefully she's all back.
Yeah, did she say Crocal is the one she plans to come back at?
I think that was the first one she was going to come back to, yes.
So, which, keeps her in, keeps her on that side of the world for an extra month as well. And
which she has said that she is, it's...
Yeah, Crocal on July 12th is what she's planning.
It's a struggle for her to be away from her daughter, to be away from home as long as she is. And, you know, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe, you know, I don't know.
It's going to definitely modulate her year even more, right? You know, because you see her on these long trips, and then you also see the fact that she has so much expectation that's put on her by everyone else in terms of her performance, and you see her kind of sometimes just wear away at that, understandably, when she's on the other side of the country, or on the other side of the world from her home. And now this, like you said, you know, maybe if there's a silver lining somewhere, a little extra time, even if injured, maybe healing in a different way, or therapeutic for her in a different way. So I guess we'll see. All right. I have actually some notes.
Honestly, it's probably a broken rib is probably better than some sort of internal, like a stress of any sort of whatever muscles are in that area. I don't know. I don't have them.
My obliques?
My obliques, yeah. I don't have those. But if I did.
All right. I don't know. Do you still have the note? One thing we want to talk about, one of our big smashies, of course, is none other than one Ryan Schweber. So I didn't look though. Did he pick up another win this weekend?
No, he took second from what I think I saw.
Was that this weekend or last? Okay.
Maybe that.
It might have been. Okay. Either way, Ryan Schweber has had some celebrations, including us talking to him about his 400th win, which happened now a few weeks ago.
He's at 405 right now.
Yeah, because of course he's just, you know, keeps racking them up. And they are doing some celebration with that. And I don't know.
This weekend he took second place at the Bricks Pizza and Yeat Street Discs Presents 23rd Annual Tar Heel Open at NC Point Series event powered by Innova. Whew, that's maybe the longest one I've ever read. Took second place.
What's longer, MP50. That or his win count?
That right now, because he just took second place.
I know I meant 400 total wins when you add them all up. Yeah, pretty impressive. I'm looking for, I apologize, let me find the details. They're doing a very limited run. I know he's got discs made up, and then also there's a very limited run of cards that are meant to commemorate it. And because he's our smashy, one of our favorites out there, I want to find where I put that information.
I will.
Now the internet's not working for me.
So
you have it?
Yes. Daniel Garrett.
There you go.
Is
come on, internet.
Yeah, your internet was going slow. I was waiting for you, but Daniel Garrett, you may have known him. He's done some of the relic sports stuff, some of the cards, the unique cards, not the stuff that's been done by Brixton, but some other things where you take pieces of disc golf and done things for Double G and Wysocki and Weiss and a few other players.
Can you put those on screen?
Maybe
challenging. We'll try and bring them up.
But ultimately, he's doing their latest edition of the card is honoring the incredible achievement of Schwebe's 400 tournament wins. He asked us to talk about it real quick. And that he's doing these pictures of a 3D printed shell. And ultimately, I'm trying to think. Unfortunately, I don't have the image of that, Terry.
Oh, you don't have these? Oh, let me.
Oh, wait, click to see image. I bet you that's what it is.
I bet if you click on those.
I bet you I do. I bet you I do. So you can see these right here.
Which are pretty cool in terms of a protective case and shell and whatnot. I think there's a few other ones. Okay, yeah, that's kind of, and there's a number of different colors, but that's the concept there. So yeah, we wanted to get that in there. That was mentioned to us last week, and it slipped past us. And we know that Schwebe not only deserves it all, but also want to make sure that people.
I'm holding out for the 500.
You would. You're so cheap. Limited run of 50 cards of the 50 collectible cards, and that if you are interested, hit up Rebel Disc Golf on Facebook for details and pre-sales. So Rebel Disc Golf, REBEL, Rebel Disc Golf on Facebook. So wanted to get that all in there. Make sure that you guys know. Yeah, pretty cool.
The proceeds go to Schwebe
and entry fees and
things like that. So
him going out to try and get more wins.
That guy.
Considering what, and I know this isn't a big surprise. Most people, this would be a good one for Statmando to pull. Most people haven't played 400 events, let alone Yeah, you're right. A very small club of people have even played 400 events. I'll reword that. So the fact that he's got 400 wins is absolutely insane.
Now that they work for the PDGA, I bet they could pull a list of number of people who have played 400 events.
Yeah.
And versus Schweber with his 400 wins. And be curious as to what that number is.
Yeah,
actually.
Schweber is listed at 867 career events, 405 wins.
Ooh, wait, 867.
Yeah, he's not even at 50%.
So he's got 150-ish to go to get to 1,000 events.
Yeah, 133.
133.
And he needs 95 to get to 500.
Is he going to get to 1,000 events or 500 wins first?
So, I mean, what is that? 95 divided by 133. So he needs to win roughly 72% of the time.
I think that's a tough call right there. You'd think that he would hit 1,000 events first, but the way he wins events these days,
I don't know.
That's a good race right there. How many people have 1,000 events?
Mando, are you listening? You're not. You shouldn't be. But I cannot. There can't be many. I'm going to say it's how many? How many would you say it is? If you had to guess as to how many people have played. Now I know Flex Starts really.
They kind of wreck that.
You can
from
rack
back in
it
the
up
day.
real quick.
But even with Flex Starts, like 1,000.
Yeah, but how many people would you say have played 1,000 events? Flex Starts included.
250?
Oh God, no.
You think less than that?
Way less. I was like sub 10.
Wow. I think it's more than that. Yeah.
Name one person that you think has played more than he has.
I mean, not many, but I just think that there got to be. Yeah, I think 250 is probably a big number. You're right, but I would probably I'd go in the area of like 40 to 50 then. Yeah, I'm going to scale down.
I'm going to say 10.
Wow. Okay.
10 people have played 1,000 events or more. I would say at most it's 10.
I'd take the over on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Not by much. Like I think no more than 30.
Because I'm trying to think who's even second on that list.
I know. I just think of all the Flex Starts down in Texas
I know,
and things like that.
I agree.
There's got to be.
But even if you played, Flex Starts really have become more of a thing in the last 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Nobody's averaging 100 events over the last 5 years on average.
No.
So even if you go 8 years, somebody would have to be averaging 100 events over the last 8 years because they'd have to be of the somewhat newer regime. Yeah, now we need Stat Mando. Because I don't know how we could quickly look that up. I don't think we have the. I don't think we have the means. I can't think of.
You're convincing me, Terry. You've definitely.
I can't think of the next. I want to know who's even second. I know he played a ton early on, like an Emerson Keith, just.
I bet
he played like 100 or something events.
I was going to say he's probably at like 240 events.
No, he's got 388.
388.
Just real quick, Emerson Keith has 388. I typed in Paige Pierce.
What does Yuli have?
348. That's actually a good call.
Because he traveled quite a bit. He was like the B tier king for a while.
And I feel bad. I don't actually remember.
MJ is at 507.
Okay. Paul. I don't believe it. Okay, that is Paul's number.
Yep.
Paul's got 588.
588.
Dating back to 2005.
Yeah, someone asks, is there anyone with 1,000? That's a great question because maybe you're right because I'm thinking we probably would have seen an article about that. Like the PDGA would have released something that says, "Hey, we had our first 1,000 event player."
No, because nobody's playing.
Which is why I don't think maybe we don't have any.
No, nobody's playing.
Because it would have to be someone relatively old. No offense to all the old people out there.
Smashy, he's not that old, but Tom McManus, he's at 540 events, and now he took a while off, but he was a real road warrior, racking up 40, 50 in a given year a couple years ago. He's got 540.
Fred Needham is at 763 events.
Okay, and he's playing like 1 million flex starts down in Texas, right? If I recall.
547 wins. Yeah, he's racking up the wins.
Yeah, he's playing MA65. So kudos to him for playing that much golf at that age period. I don't care winning or not, just getting out and playing that much golf. Wow.
547 career wins. I mean, and it kind of feels a little hollow, like when you click on his wins, he's the only one in the division.
I know, and that's a whole nother discussion for another day, and I'm definitely not about to start discrediting it, or whatever. Stats are stats, and we would massage and have whatever criteria. But yeah,
I would be curious. Do you think Schweber has beaten the most number of people? Not different people, total people.
Oh,
like because of how many wins and his division.
So you're saying though, if he beats MJ one weekend and then he beats MJ the next weekend,
two. Like, because you're right, like unique people probably not, but the number of people.
I think Yuli might have that number of unique people. I feel like that was a stat
a
year or two ago where he may have had the most,
or maybe Yeti. Someone said is just
he may have had the most unique people beat. This is why we need Statmando on staff.
No, unique. I think Yuli might probably have it.
I'm pretty sure that was a stat.
I'm thinking total people.
No, because I would have to think. Maybe I was going to say I'd have to think a lot of those wins coming in the Masters division may have had just overall had a lesser field
3,
size.
4, 5 people sometimes,
or even when they're 15 or 20.
Still,
yeah, they're just a much lesser field size, so that would be a great.
Elaine King, how many PDG?
I know she was coming to mind as well, but she's taken so much time off, so to speak, in the last few years. I know wins wise, she's right up there, and I was like,
she was for a while, but
she's got 606 events played with 318 wins. So,
all right.
628. I'm thinking of like big time winners, and I go to Steve Brinster, who's got 112 wins out of 445 events played. I don't think we see a Mike Mosier just playing as much as we used to. He's PDGA 5557, and he's got 720 events played with 293 wins. So, like, it's going to be him. If there's anyone that's fitting in that box that we were talking about, where I said it's less than 10, it's going to be someone like an Elaine or a Mike or someone of that.
Maybe Mosier has the most people beat. I don't know.
Oh, those are some great stuff. Great stats for the
Statmando. We need you next week. I want to. You're on a couple Discords with me. Let's figure this out.
Okay, there you go. Say Yeti is over 600. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Someone asked how many events I've run. I think I know you can search for that now.
There was a
way you could do that. I think it has me listed again. That's where it's like there's split days now, and so do I really get credit for an AM day one day and then the pro day the next?
It's one event.
I know I'm pretty sure it's listed at over 100. I definitely do not have the most events run by any means.
No.
There you're looking at a Mike Barnett and a Chuck Conley and these guys that are running now 10, 15 events. Or 20 events in a season, and they've been doing it for a couple of years. At one point, I very much could have been on that pace, but then my tournament directing definitely backed off. So Johnny McRae, McRae only has 548. I guess he didn't really go on tour until 10 years ago, right? He played a lot in Florida, 15, 20 events a year, but that was much later in his career.
Who has the most courses designed and installed? That's a tough question.
I know that I'm going to guess it's Chuck Kennedy.
Probably.
I know that I was at the 100th course done by John Houck. That was down in Alabama, and that was 5, 6, 7 years ago, I want to say. And is he now at? He's not at 150. I don't know what he just celebrated another.
Houck and Kennedy both have a ton.
Yeah, Houck and Kennedy. And then there's going to be a ton of people that have local courses that aren't necessarily as well known or recognized for sure. I mean, I've been involved with somewhere around 25 or 30 course designs, but there's a number of those that are 9-hole courses at elementary schools, which
course is a course, man.
Which are still, I'm not discrediting them, but clearly I don't expect you to ever, most of you to ever go out and play the 9-hole course that averages, 209 feet. However, I did get another call for a course the other day, and hopefully we can make it happen at a school. All right. Yeah, the Admiral. Thank you, Webb. That's what I was brought out there for. And that was his 100th. And did he just maybe get to 125 or 150? Somewhat recently. All right. I think that covers most of our actual news before we take a quick intermission when we could get into the after show, where it all kind of rambles together at this point anyway. But I think that covers most of our main news.
I think so.
The two things that we touched on that I would consider were part of the big news that happened right after our podcast last week was the fact that we saw the announcement for Champions Cup getting moved, and lots of people were fired up about that. We kind of touched on that with Ella. And then as that news the dust hadn't settled, DGPT's like, hey, hold my beer. We're going to talk about how the points are structured how the season finale championship weekend is going to play out and the format for that. And then everybody decided to re-lose their shit for the next day. So it was kind of funny. We had those back-to-back days last week where I was just like, what's going to be third? What can I be outraged about today?
Do you like the new finale format? Do you care?
What they continue to do is take into consideration the feedback that people were frustrated. They're not seeing our best players at the end of the year. And so
I feel like they took care of that last year, though.
I hear you, but was it also weird where there was a reset? Sure. Am I okay with this? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to get so pissed off and lose my shit over these decisions that get made that people act like are just life and death. I may or may not agree with them. I'm not going to say I agree with everyone all of the time and I don't care, but some people just really, really, really are fired up about this. I don't know.
I think ultimately
we got to let some stuff play out.
Yeah, we have to let it play out. But I think it really comes down to what does the Pro Tour want out of the finale? Do you want Cinderella stories, excitement, like Nathan Queen? Then you do some sort of unique format where you can earn your way in. I'll tell you what, no offense to Nathan Queen, he ain't winning this year because he's not going to make the top 10. He's not going to make up 10 strokes on someone like Calvin in those 4 rounds. It's just the only issue I have with this. And again, if you want to reward the people who have played the best throughout the year with these strokes, that's fine. But it looks like based on this, you're probably going to get one of your top 5 or 6 guys to win. It's going to be tough to make up 5 strokes on Vinny, no, regardless, or Cal,
or 10 strokes over the 4 rounds.
Correct. Not impossible. It would make for a great Cinderella story if it happened, or like I said, or the issue is the DGPT is really putting it into potential that final day is going to be boring as shit.
Yeah, it's possible. Sure, of course.
Because with the reset, you knew that final day was going to be exciting. Everyone's starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got people that have 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 strokes on some other players, say your top 2 guys who had a 9 and 10 stroke lead run away, and by the final day now they have they've got 4, 5, 6, 7 on the other card, similar to what we saw on Friday. Or on Sunday with the FPO field. There is a good chance you go into that final day, maybe with only 2 people with a chance to win. Maybe one person just Vinny gets hot, and I just keep using Vinny because he's just always at the top of the board. And he's got 5 strokes going into that final day, and it's just meh. People maybe don't have a lot of interest in it. That's what they risk. Now,
sure.
It could be really exciting.
But Nevin also, due to the way that course plays,
yes, anything can happen.
I feel like also, does lend to the idea of like, well, yeah, you may have a 5-stroke lead, but 5 strokes isn't necessarily as safe out there.
You're right.
As it is per se at a Swenson.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Like at Nevin, anything can happen. I'm just saying there is a potential for a very big gap to be formed and to make a majority of the field worthless.
Sure.
And one of the other things I really liked about some of the older formats, whether it was last year or a couple years ago, is that we got to see some of the lower level players. From the control room perspective, do you have any reason the first round or two to show the guy who's already 10 strokes back? Anyone that's not in the top 10, we'll just say Yuli, for instance. Maybe he's 15th on the tour standings. Congratulations. We don't care. You could rack up 7 birdies in a row.
I was just going to say, if he's 7 under through the front 9, like, we send a camera to him.
He could still be down 8 strokes.
I get that, but I'm just saying, like, he's still having a hot round.
Great. We won't talk about him. Well, we'll talk about him, but you're not going to show him. Sure. You're not going to, like, to me, I don't mind the format, the 10 strokes. I honestly don't care. It all depends on like I said, it all depends what the Pro Tour is looking to do. Mm-hmm. I'm not in those decisions to make. I don't care. I'm going to watch it regardless. I don't think I'm a part of it this year. So I'll watch it regardless. I just think that there's potential for boredom. I kind of liked the we'll say randomness of the underdog potential. And I feel like this really eliminates a lot of that. So,
sure. Well, and then like you said, it does come down to a little bit of the objective, and like Ryan's saying, which I very much can get on board with too, is there's a heightened sense of reward for the people that played very well throughout the season, and
we're already rewarding them with a lot of cash for making the like you get $500
you're
for
taking an advantage
up.
into the final. You're taking an advantage into the final tournament as a reward for how well you've played throughout the year.
And I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, last year I actually liked last year where again the final round was reset. It was like cool, everybody has a chance now.
Wasn't it the final 2 rounds?
Maybe it was the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Either way, like the final 2 rounds reset. It gave it a more like you get to the finals,
sure,
and then the finals, everyone's on the same footing. I don't feel like we're getting that right now. But I'll wait to watch. It could be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. Is we don't know. I mean, well, we can lose our minds now and get really crazy, but we really don't know until it's going to play out. Within the article, it talks about how many starting strokes everyone gets, as we were just saying, 10 for the leader, 9, 8, 7, and then it kind of goes from there. Also, it is, I was going to try and read one more thing out of here. Oh, I do like that they also, they mentioned here newly updated stats, awards based, were determined in consultation with StatMando. I love that there's this isn't just a feels thing. They're obviously using some data. No, you could argue you don't like the data they're using. That's fine too. But just knowing that this isn't something that's flippant, and that's where maybe I get frustrated in seeing so much criticism all the time is people barking really loudly saying they just are effing it up left and right, and there's no thought put into this. There's a ton of thought. You may disagree with how they arrived at it, but there is still a ton of thought that goes into it.
And the best thing
is not flipping a coin and being like, should we do this format or that format?
The best part about all this, if you don't like it, they're going to change it next year anyway, so who the fuck cares?
That's true. That's true. It probably will.
This is like the 7th or 8th year 10th year we've had a finals, and it's been different every single year.
I agree.
And so guess what, guys? If you don't like it this year, close your eyes and wait a year because it'll be different next year.
That's probably true. If history's,
and I'm okay with that. Like a little bit of change.
I think as long as everybody knows,
yes,
as long as all the competitors know, and hopefully the not so bright commentators like me can articulate what's going on, I almost don't even care that it's slightly changed either. We've seen a lot of different courses for the finale, and we've seen, obviously, as you just said, a ton of different formats for it. So all we can do is wait and see. I'm certainly not losing sleep for an October event here in May.
I slept really well the last couple of days when I've heard about it.
Well, don't you let this get at you. All right, we're gonna close regular conversation down from our regular show. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to Randon Latta, who joined us. We wish him the best of luck as he'll be over there at the Cascade Challenge, which I'm excited to produce and put out on the channel this weekend over at the Disc Golf Guy YouTube channel. So hopefully you guys are in. We might be the biggest event in town for the weekend, so hopefully that gives you some good reason to tune in, in between your cookouts or whatever else you're doing on Memorial Day weekend. And our champion, Ella Hansen, OTB, monkey's off her back, so to speak, and I think now there's a fox on her back. I don't know, but I think it's going to be awesome to see
target on her back
what
now.
She can do, and what an awesome performance, and it was great for her to join us. And I hope she too has a good weekend with celebrating a wedding with her family and has a good time. And we'll see her at the Portland Open. This has been SmashBoxx TV Podcast 507. We're going to take a quick intermission. When we come back, we'll have the after show that includes some free stuff that we'll give away and other random banter. We'll complain more about something that you hate. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxx TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxx TV Podcast 507's After Show. We closed out the regular show, getting all fired up. And I'm going to pretty quickly move on from it. I will answer on the board.
Fired up for something I truly don't care about.
Question was asked, am I growing my hair out? And then if I'm in my emo phase, no, a haircut has been, I don't want to say buried on the agenda. It's on the agenda. It's on the docket for sometime in the next week or so. It'll happen.
Get your haircut out in Portland area or wherever you're going. Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. I don't have time for it this weekend. Maybe I will. We'll see. Nope, it's going to happen any day now. I did have a great conversation. I've had a lot of great conversations over the last few days. Very, very busy. I know I talked in the regular show. Super excited about Cascade Challenge this weekend. Just being out there. Randon Latta in the regular show talked about the kind of course that it is, some woodsy golf. So looking forward to seeing it for the first time for myself. Also talked to the PDGA media staff and some of them today. Excited about the Pro and Am Masters Worlds that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks as well. That's taking place over in Emporia. I know I said it a dozen times, but I had so much fun there last year out in Flagstaff, and this year nearly 800 people. I know we've kind of kept up on it in terms of the registration and whatnot. Eric McCabe, big shout out to him, and I think people are loving it, understandably. He's gone out and done a couple of YouTube videos doing hole previews or course previews, and you couldn't ask for really a better guy to be doing course previews for you of the courses. I'm assuming he's starting with the courses that he's playing, but I'm sure there's going to be enough pull, and it would make sense for him to go to some of the other courses. No one knows the Emporia courses the way EMAC does, or as well as he does, so he's the perfect candidate for it, and I know he's been putting those out on YouTube as well. So some good stuff out there to see. Webb, am I going to see you? He says, can't wait for Masters Worlds. I'm assuming I'm going to see you. And to add on to that, McCabe himself competing.
I know.
So that's going to be pretty cool.
Is this his first Masters he's competing in? No?
His first Masters Worlds.
Yeah, I know it's not his first Masters event.
Yeah, his first Masters Worlds.
It's not really that fair that he lives there.
I mean, he's not, would not, outside of a homey favoritism, he's not, ratings-wise, would not be considered a favorite.
No, I know. Still not fair.
But,
he has to play with one peg leg.
If he wins, not fair, you designed these courses.
Asterisk.
Yeah, for sure. Tim making it sound like he's going to be out there, which is awesome. We got to mention disc golf coming to New York City if it wasn't discussed last week. We quickly touched on it last week, and I'm excited. I'm super excited just about the idea. I've said before, I've enjoyed some time in Manhattan and Broadway and New York City and all the touristy Times Square stuff and whatever, been in Central Park, all that stuff. However, to know that there's a disc golf course that's so accessible by so many people.
It's still like 40 minutes from Manhattan, but it's still it's in the city.
Just the fact that it's there, and if you want, people can go play now disc golf.
If you want some good insight on it, I know Ultra World had an interview with the two Alexes that are actually putting that course in, or had it. It's in. I think it's basically in now. So that have quite a bit to do with that, because I know Charlie lives out in New York, so he reached out to them. And so if you're interested in the course, by all means, listen to that podcast. You can skip the rest of it. Their podcast is meh, but the interview. So this one interview is okay.
This one interview, this one time with those one guys. The rest, mid. As they say.
I wouldn't give them flowers. I'm just saying.
No. Someone says it looks like there's already some baskets in the ground, maybe at least some portables. No, I believe they're all in and it's been installed, because I specifically sent Paul after I saw the message. I said, because there's been talk about me trying to help out with the foundation and maybe travel to some other country to be of any kind of assistance, which I totally would love the opportunity to do. That's been lightly discussed with a number of the team at the Paul Macbeth Foundation. I'm still on board, but I sent him a message after I saw this initial release or announcement and said, hey, I definitely, that was one, just because I think it's so cool, I definitely would love to be part of. And I think he wrote back, he texted me back something like, yeah, it's already in. It's already in. I'm like, no, I didn't know at the time.
They just haven't, I don't believe they've done the actual grand opening, but the course is basically done.
So I wasn't trying to skirt out on the hard work or the physical labor. I didn't know that it was physically in as it already is. So nonetheless, I'm excited to get there and check it out. Ray's just getting caught up and says, Johnny, have you really refused to mow your lawn this year? You're that guy?
No, Ray. What are you talking about?
He's on a 9-day break.
It's been 9 days, which I don't think is outrageous, especially considering I think we've gotten rain every other day for the last maybe the last week and a half. It's been really wet here. I think this might be one of the wettest springs or wettest Mays, did I hear them say? I don't know. But it's been very, very wet.
You wet.
And I have a relatively decent-sized yard, and my first world problems.
Yeah.
My rider.
Oh, you're riding lawnmower.
My riding lawnmower, if it's wet when I cut the lawn, it creates mud divots.
Oh, so some tracks.
But not that that's not why I haven't done it, because I'll still go through and put divots in my yard. I ain't that guy. I don't care. It's been 9 days. I didn't get to it this weekend. It was gorgeous out this weekend instead. And it's funny because this weekend it didn't look nearly as ragged, because we had some my son had some friends over on Saturday and we were all playing outside. We did s'mores, the whole kit and caboodle. They were outside playing 500 with a frisbee. It is frustrating to watch these 14 and 15-year-old kids so bad at throwing a frisbee. None
of them with, disc golf for ultimate background, right?
None of them, which is funny because they just did an ultimate segment in their gym. in their gym class, because my son's like, hey dad, I got an A in ultimate. I'm like, way to go. The 2-day course. And he's like, it's really tough to throw when the winds are like 10 and 15 miles an hour. I'm like, yeah, it's a little tough. And he's like, just the way you, and this is what he said, just the way you hold the disc, it's got that big hole. I'm like, what? They were using an Aerobee, because I think that's all that's all they had. They didn't have like an ultimate disc.
One ultimate disc is like $10 though. Come on.
I just don't think. And I told Mason, I was like, when he told me this, I'm like, you were using, yeah, that's gonna be tough to throw in the wind. And yes, I'm like, dude, you could have literally walked. Well, not really, because he's in high school. I'm like, you could have asked me. I could have given you one of 6 ultimate discs I have lying around the house. And he's like, whatever.
That's just embarrassing for the teacher. Like
the fact that they're using an Aerobee.
Yeah. The fact that, I mean, I get it. Teachers don't have a ton of, but we're talking about like provide one ultimate lid. This isn't saying provide a starter set of discs to every single kid so that they can go out and try disc golf. Like you're talking about 1 or 2 ultimate lids at $10 or $12 a piece. Yeah, that teacher needs to be fired.
I get that.
I'm canceling the teacher.
I mean, I also understand it's a 2-day thing.
I know. But are they doing baseball with wiffle bats too?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
That's
Terry.
what it feels like. Yeah.
So. But anyway, so yes, kids were outside, and we were doing a lot of outdoor stuff, and the yard didn't look so bad.
No. When I pulled up tonight, I was like, wow.
It is like over the last like 4 days, it's just shooting up, because we had the really nice. It was like freaking 75 or almost 80 on Sunday, and then it rains. I think Sunday night into Monday, and then Monday morning, I think it was raining, and then tonight it's supposed to storm as well. I probably could have mowed today if I really wanted to, but I didn't feel like it.
No, I mean, when I pulled up, I was like, wow, are there boards on the window? This place is this place getting shut down? Like this. I thought, man, wouldn't it be great if one of those that internet guy comes around? There's a couple of them. Have you ever seen the guys that show up
that just
then volunteer to
take care of your usually those are for like totally overgrown sidewalk. That's true. You can't see my sidewalk because I don't have one.
Like, was there a sidewalk here? You're like, I don't know. I think there might have been.
See, Tim says mowing after work sucks. I could see that if you were doing a push mower, but honestly, I don't mind mowing my lawn when I just have to get on this big ass Toro 0-turn rider and just cruise around my yard, throw some headphones on. It's not a big deal. I just haven't, because usually get home, eat dinner. My wife usually makes dinner around 5 to 5:30. By the time we're done with dinner, it's 6:15. Usually get some time with the kids for just like a half hour before they go and do their own thing. And then it's like, do I want to mow at like 7 o'clock? Like, or I could sit my ass and work on the website or watch TV. It's just been a little bit of laziness, but it'll get done the next day or couple days. Don't worry about it.
Glenn says, Terry, I just bought a used 2018 AmWorld Charlotte Destroyer for $20. Almost like new. Good deal? Maybe. I don't know if there was anything special or particular about those that I know of. In fact, I'm having a hard time even. I think I was there briefly. Yeah, I was there. Nothing stands out to me as special about. If it throws good for you, then of course, then it's worth every penny of $20. If you told me you paid any more than $20, I would definitely question as to why. But maybe there's something you know that I don't. But yeah, it seems like a perfectly fine purchase. Oh yeah, some mowing. Yeah. Oh, maybe this answers that question. Has Mason mowed with the big mower?
No, I won't let him.
You won't. Yeah. I was gonna say how long before that becomes his task?
Never. It's
really
my task. He does do the push mower because we have
that I know.
We have the ditch out front that I can't get the rider into, because if it's even the remotest bit wet in the last 6 months, my mower will slide into the ditch because it can only be. And I made that I found that out the hard way the very first time I mowed, and I kind of thought like, oh, this isn't that big of an angle, and I thought I could kind of ride sideways on it, and that didn't work so well.
No, I could see, but you don't want him ever even doing like the backyard or the safer spots with
I wouldn't mind if he did. I just don't mind doing it myself.
Oh, okay.
Like, so I don't want to do the push mower, so that's his job.
That's
so get
that's a
get the lazy ass kid out there pushing the mowing the ditch. But no, I could see that. I will say that it does make me a little nervous just because we've got the fence around the yard, and there's a few spots that I personally know, like, all right, you need to make sure to go around the downspout that's sticking out, and I can get pretty close, or I can get close to the fence where I don't know if I'd trust him yet. Even I will let him drive a car and trust him more than driving that zero turn, because it's a little finicky in some spots.
There's definitely some.
I've offered to let him drive it around the yard, not getting close to anything, and he's always been like, no, I don't care. He's a teenager, so it's like, whatever.
Another question that comes in, and Glenn says, I might throw it. Yeah, I don't know if there's something special to it or not. If there is, I'm not aware of it, so I would go ahead and throw it, especially if you said it's like new. So if it's not mint anyway, then yeah, go out and throw it. And then you said, how many 2015 Sexton Firebirds did you buy? Oh, geez. That's the equivalent question to like, yeah, how much Bitcoin did you get when it was like 9 cents? or wasn't there a point where you owned like 50 Bitcoin and you got rid of them all? Yeah, same thing. 2015, I've said this a number of times throughout the last decade. When the Sexton Firebirds came out at it might have only been $19.99. It might have been $24.99 originally. I forget. I have increased price. I know, shocking. I remember thinking, F that. I'm not paying $25. No one did. Almost no one. That would have been like you saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to go buy a ton of Amazon stock, while they're selling all these books online. I'm just going to go gobble up a ton of Amazon stock, because this is nobody knew that those were going to turn out to be what they did. And so with that, I might have bought 5, maybe. I might have only bought 1 at the time, and then tried to get my hands on some within the next year or two, and I was successful at doing just that. But of all the most expensive collectible discs, that was one that I never jumped on. Yeah, I never. Again, almost anyone that says they have 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 of them probably slowly acquired them after the fact. Sure. After whether it was 6 months or a year or longer. And now there's people that own 30 of them, and it's worth, a freaking, small house, and that's great. But they acquired all of those. Nobody went into it and was like, yeah, I'm going to pick up 10 of these and sit on them. Nobody did that. Well, okay. Maybe 1 or 2 people in the world did.
Sure there is a few,
but not too many. And there weren't that many even available, if I recall. So, yeah. I learned by the next year, though. So by 2016, there might have been an order for 50 or 80 or 100 or whatever it was. And I've then continued to buy an absurd amount ever since. But, not many on that first year. And I have an update. Sexton Firebird update. We get paid nothing for any of these free Sexton plugs or Innova plugs here. But Kelvin Heimberg reached out to me last week. And he came through. And that sweetheart of a amazing human, and my favorite Kelvin from Florida. Yeah, he told me he did in fact get his hands on a Sexton Firebird for me from the Las Vegas Challenge.
Oh, that's awfully nice.
And he was willing to send it to me, and I said, "Or I'll just see you
$50."
And so big thank you to my friend Kelvin. Who I thought very easily may have forgotten about the very gracious favor he offered. So big thank you to him.
So Terry, if there's a player who's going to get arrested right before their tournament, who's it going to be?
Oh, lots of them.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I don't have all night.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championships got arrested the morning of the event. He was in the lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a wild story that was.
It was kind of crazy. And it's funny because the first thing I thought was, like, clearly there was some misunderstanding, but was Scotty Scheffler like a jerk to the cop? It wouldn't be shocking to hear a professional athlete that maybe got a little lippy or didn't think that the rules applied to them. They needed to get in. I don't think that's the case in this instance.
No,
but like that was my first thought. It turns out sounds like it was just some confusion between the cops that were towards the back of the line, the cops that were up the front of the line, and then maybe a cop that got a little bit eager to direct where the traffic was going, and things got out of hand. But interesting. What an interesting scenario.
Well, doesn't it also bring up, the never-ending philosophy of like, how disgusted you are when you hear someone saying, "Don't you know who I am?" And then someone like Scotty Scheffler not saying that, not trying to really flex that muscle or go that route amidst what sounded like a ton of confusion. He doesn't go that way. And then so many people online are saying, "Don't you know who he is? You should have let him go." Like it continues to be like this really interesting selective outrage about when something gets said, how you can take the exact reverse of it. And then there's so many people that are still mad about it. So yeah, what a wild scenario. And then naturally, someone who's been around long enough, like you and me, you think back to the scenario, which was different, but of Sarah Hokom. And,
I did think of that.
And the 2015 Worlds, where Sarah Hokom was at lunch or coming to the course.
Between courses.
And got into a car accident. She's leading the world championships. This was in Pittsburgh. She's
by a few strokes.
The Worlds, and gets into a car accident and is ultimately late. And I'm standing there. I have some crazy footage. I'm standing there because the women at that time, I think we're going to start on like hole 14 or 15 or something like that. They weren't starting on hole 1 because it was some form of shotgun start or something. And I'm standing there with most of the division, the leaders of the division, and we're waiting on Sarah to get to the course. And then the conversation along with the marshals that were there on site, the PDGF marshals and officials, of like, "Hey, we need to start the round." It was made known that she had gotten in this car accident, and they were talking. And most of the division was saying, "We don't want to start. That's not fair. We don't want to start the round and have her get penalized." And after lots of delays and some interesting antics, I guess, in lots of different ways and lots of differing opinions, ultimately the round started. Sarah showed up in the middle of I think it was in the middle of the second hole, because she missed the first 2 holes.
I thought she missed.
Or is it 4?
I thought she missed the first 3, and then she came in.
I'd have to go double check. But I remember I was there. I was waiting, watching her. She comes up the hill. I'm filming some stuff. She comes up. At one point, I was texting with her mother because her mother didn't know the story of what was going on. Her mother back in Idaho. And then me and her mother were on Facebook because this was all unfolding and there was a lot of confusion, and she hadn't been in full contact with her mother. So it was absolutely just, all of it was bizarre. And there's without beating it to death, there's just a lot of conversations that get had there too, of who you are, what position you're in, because we all said, if you're in 47th place and you're already not a world champion, I'm sorry, you're not as likely to get somebody that's willing to say, "Hey, let's halt all of this play," because our fellow competitor who's in 42nd, who's maybe not as well known. And I'm not claiming, I'm just saying, like, there's all these different scenarios, and I'm not, and I always made the line, this was not Sarah's fault.
No, she got rear-ended.
She got rear-ended. Would it have been different? The narrative, the story, and I always just use this for example purpose, is if we found out later Sarah caused the accident because she was doing something inattentive. Do you feel different?
I mean, there isn't different.
Like, isn't it funny how instantly, like, everyone's vibe kind of changes when you're like, "Oh, she was in a car accident, because she was turning the channel while, trying to grab a disc out of the back seat while her dog was running around," which she didn't even have at the time. But the point remains, like, it wasn't her fault in this case, but if it was, or she was on the phone, it's just funny how we instantly twist it.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I'm 100% with you. It's a difficult situation, and
it is.
And my understanding is they were going to delay the round an hour. And I don't know if they ended up doing that or not.
No, didn't they reschedule his? Didn't they delay?
No, you can't reschedule him because it's a shotgun start.
Okay, let's read.
So.
Maybe the board knows more than we do. But I thought
anyway.
they ultimately did a delay.
So maybe it was,
and then he obviously got there on time and he ended up playing.
Yeah, because they said he made it. He was supposed to tee off at 10:08 or something, and they said I remember reading he made his 10:08 tee time. Now, was the 10:08 tee time at 10:08?
Yeah,
I don't know for sure if they ended up delaying it.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of crazy to see. We say it all the time though, especially when we talk about Monday carryovers. PGA and the PDGA still are worlds apart in terms of how everything gets handled, and like you were just saying. If that, or I was just saying, actually, sorry, if that's the guy in third from last, how does that get handled versus the number one player, and the guy that Scotty Scheffler is? Mm-hmm. Those things all get factored in.
There's so many ways you could look at this story. If there was video of him like just reaming out a cop and ignoring him and whatever.
It sounded like there was some legitimate confusion as to when he pulled up, as to what he thought the cop was saying. Then the cop.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely seems like there's confusion. And
Ray says, Drew Gibson claimed to get docked 2 strokes for being 7 seconds late. Where's our bet at the beginning of the year? Didn't we talk about an over-under on like 10 people?
Something like that. 10 people.
Like this would continue to happen to?
Yeah.
And what's the count at that we know of?
Oh, God,
6, 7, 8 right now?
It's got to be. Yeah.
At least that many have posted about it of our higher profile players. Well, I mean, right off the bat, Zach Melton, Kevin Jones, Ricky Wysocki, Drew Gibson, Holly Finley.
Yes.
Those have all been like, those are without even thinking. And I'm sure you guys could probably name 5 more. That just right off the top of my head.
Maybe. Yeah, I knew we'd see some more of it. I wasn't sure how much more. But
we'd
have to go.
I'll have to go back because that would have obviously been right after the chess.com event and talk about what those numbers were. So kind of interesting.
Austin Hannum. Yep.
Okay, there you go. Sam Martin says, of where 511 police plants... I'm not following what you're saying there. Maybe my reading comprehension is just bad. I think it is. Her fault or not, Artie says, her fault or not doesn't change the result. She's still in an accident.
Yeah, I mean...
Start the round late for your leader. I understand, like, it was so... to see most of her closest competitors saying, we don't want to start. We don't want her penalized. I thought was
admirable.
Admirable. That's a great word for it. It is an awkward situation. Of course, I don't want her. Nobody wants to see her penalized. But where does that line get drawn because of the degree in which you're ultimately going to be late? Whether it was 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever the case might be.
I don't know.
It was crazy. Madison Walker at Champions Cup, was she stroked at Champions Cup for being late?
I don't recall that, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Just anybody at this point doesn't shock me.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's interesting because when I was at Emporia this year, obviously they have a clock, what are those, satellite clocks? I think they're called satellite. Sitting there right at the scorer's table, like it's very apparent if you're
atomic clock.
Atomic, yeah, maybe that's the right. Why am I thinking satellite? Same concept.
Sure, yeah.
Sitting at the scorer's table, I believe they also have then a matching one or the exact same clock over at the warm-up area. It's easy. Like you start walking, and if you're cutting it close, and then next thing you know, somebody talks to you and holds you up, like it's still your responsibility. I'm not trying to say that, but I see now how it can happen, and you just have to give yourself more time so that even if you get held up by a thing, or you just you sometimes have to wave and say, "Hey, I can't be late," and you just put your head down and keep walking.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, it's
if you're late,
wild.
It's your fault.
Agreed. I'm not suggesting otherwise.
Yeah, there's no reason. I'm not gonna say there's no reason, but if you're late, it's your fault. There's no excuses. Period. Like no, if especially if you're 7 seconds late, as he said.
I was just gonna say,
if you're 15, if you're like a full 4 minutes late because something weird, like I said, a car accident, something weird happened, I can understand. Like, yes, bummer, you have to take the 2 strokes. Blah, 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 yes. If you're late, and you don't have a really good excuse, like none of these players have come up with like, oh man, it really sucks, I had this and this happen. I'd feel a little sympathy for someone if they came up with a good reasoning. I would still tell them they should get stroked, but at least I would feel sorry. None of these players, all these players, just like, ugh, I was just a few seconds late and I got stroked because I didn't check in. I was 50 feet away and I was just waiting there and I didn't get my stroke. Blah 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 blah. It's like, good, you screwed up. You won't screw up again, hopefully.
There's maybe the bet.
That's whether someone's going to get it twice.
Is who now there's a short list of candidates that could get their second penalty for doing this. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
at this point you feel like it's going to, right?
I feel like it could happen to Austin Hannum just out of spite. He might do it. Because he's been pretty vocal about it. I feel like it could be. I feel like it could be Drew Gibson. It could be Ricky, although Ricky just like doesn't feel like it would be Ricky again. Everyone else, I don't know.
Zach Melton could be out there gabbing, sucking on a lollipop.
That's true. He does do that. Mm-hmm. It always looks like he's smoking, and you're like, nope, that's not a cigarette. That's him sucking on a lollipop.
So, yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes.
The only person that says I was putting and lost track of time, the only person that has that excuse is Own. She just putts all the time. Like I needed to get 17 more putts in. It was just, I should have probably stopped.
Yeah, I only got 950, and I was trying to get to the 1,000.
Get my 1,000 putts in,
and therefore, yeah, I guess we should keep a running tally. I'd be curious to know who's all gotten them that we know of, and then who will be the first to possibly get to the second infraction or offense? I don't know. Is there a different tone to it when Drew specifically in this case says I was 7 seconds late? Like, do you feel like he's trying to set a tone by saying just how close he was versus just saying, oh, I was late to my tee, I fell victim to it, I was late to the tee, but him specifically spelling out the 7 seconds? Do you feel like that?
Maybe he's trying to kind of
like draw a different kind of attention to it.
Maybe
like it's
like how close
it's more,
it was.
Yeah, more close or more arbitrary because it was just 7 seconds. Also, someone who I think about who all is active on Twitter, on Disc Golf Twitter. We saw an interesting post by one Brody Smith.
Yeah, Brody coming out basically saying that his game is feeling like crap. There's a lot of spots where he's very much not doing well. And he's going to take a break from touring for a few weeks, try to get his game under control, and then assumingly come back. I've seen some questions about whether he's really going to come back. I think personally, I'll go on record, say I think he will. Mm-hmm. I think he'll come back on tour. But yeah, I mean, I get it. This is not. I mean, it's not an easy sport all the time. Like, you need to put in the effort. You need to put in the work. And if he feels like he's not doing that right now and he needs to, then by all means, go do it. But, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I like you just said, I think it's going to come down to it's obviously the personal motivation as to how interested is he in doing the work. I mean, he's calling himself out and saying, hey, I'm not getting the results because I'm not putting in the work.
Sure.
Then
I say the same thing.
Exactly. That's what my point is. But if you don't have the motivation to put in the work either, then maybe we're just going to be spinning our wheels. And I can totally understand that. So, yeah, but kind of interesting to see him make such a pointed post, and everyone can draw their own conclusions as to whatever they think is going to happen. So be it. But for him to come out and have that self-acknowledgement,
so I guess we'll see. To be fair, I think this is like the second time he's done this year. Like, just admitted, like, hey, I need to get back. I need to practice more. I need to do this. My game's not doing well. I mean, that's That's any sport. Like, everyone goes through slumps, and whether this is a long-term slump or a short-term slump or what, I don't know. We'll find out.
Ray says Gavin Rathbun is an interesting story. I mean, he's clearly proving that he has all of these skills. Like you said, you also love his pace of play. He's clearly proving that he has all of these skills. I feel like I continue to see people say, well, DD really effed up, or they didn't renew him this year and he's just really sticking it to them. No. I'll admit, I don't know how diverse his bag is as to what he's exactly throwing. I'm sure I could go do that research. I haven't, I'll admit. Maybe there's something to be said about a freedom of a mixed bag. Maybe there's a newfound love or excitement in that. And that alone, and maybe he is playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, possibly.
It's tough coming off of an injury. Your manufacturer doesn't know what potential. He said at the beginning of the year he didn't even know if he was going to tour.
Yeah,
I'm glad he did.
Nope, just a store has a gateway.
Talking about Gavin, he's got a gateway signature disc.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
And it's just a store that's sponsoring him.
The Double Eagle Disc Golf.
Yeah,
I believe is one of his primary sponsors. So, and he ships all of his discs using
disc in a box.
He does. Well, actually, I don't even think he does. His mom ships out his discs using my disc in a box, and I can appreciate that. And right. I don't know if we touched on it. Maybe we did last week, but he also proposed to his significant other, Destiny. So congratulations for that, along with Kevin Jones. And I had to ask my kids this weekend, even though it's now dated by a few weeks, is there something special about May 8th? Obviously, there was a lot of talk about May the 4th be with you, May 4th, blah, blah, blah. But May 8th, I feel like both Kevin and Gavin proposed to their significant others on the 8th.
I just think maybe it was a weekend and you have time to do something. And
I didn't know if there was just something. Yeah, if there was something. It wasn't, though. It was a Wednesday.
Oh, I don't know.
I believe they both did it on the 8th. Now that I'm saying it, I feel like I might be wrong, but I'm almost positive they both did it on May 8th. So
yeah, well, maybe they did.
Maybe there's a May 8th pact about
maybe
getting engaged.
Yeah.
All right. You know who we love?
Patreon supporters.
We love them the most, and that's because they buy our love.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely for sale.
You are a whore.
Dirty. Right here, you can buy me, and I'm cheap. As little as $1 a week.
Yeah, just $1.
Or $1 a month even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much to love us.
It doesn't take much. And there's a lot to love between you and I.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, like we said, for as little as $1 a month. That's like one Starbucks drink a year. You know? There are people who will spend $12 on a Starbucks
on Starbies.
Is that what they call it?
It's called Starbies.
Okay, Starbucks. Yep. I'm going to go Starbucks. If I start calling it Starbies, it'll go away. Haven't been to a Starbucks in like 7 years.
Starbs and Starbies. I know, real clever for those abbreviations.
Yeah,
both are very much things. Yep.
All right. So for one Starbies drink, you can support us at patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. This week, we have 133 people eligible for our giveaway. I've sorted them by first name. Terry D. Miller. The D is for distance.
Big D.
What number should we draw?
I like... I almost went first for Ella, and I almost went third for Randon. Let's go 4. We never go 4.
Jeez.
2's always the easy default.
4 at our age?
We're going to go 4.
Our first one is 119. Our second number is 7. Our third number is 100. 100 was the third. It should have gone straight 100. Our fourth and final number is 71. 71. Going to scroll down. I was at the top. The Gambling Man, Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers.
I'm sure he's never heard that before.
You're probably the first.
I'm guessing, in case you didn't know. Islands in the Sun. You can't go wrong. Showing my age, kids. Kenny Rogers. Congratulations, Kenny. You've been a Patreon supporter for like ever. Since 2018, I'd say like 170 months or something like that is what it says.
No, we like him more than most.
I like him a lot.
Perfect. Kenny, I'll shoot you a message. We'll double check that we have the correct address for you. Oh!
Did you get our discs?
No, they're showing up tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Always a
Don't go to my house and rob them because I might already be on the plane, so my daughter will have to grab them, depending on when they get delivered. Patreon discs from last year show up at my doorstep tomorrow. So hopefully they arrive right before I get on my flight so that I'm able to, I don't have to rely on my daughters to move the huge box. I feel bad when I sometimes make them do it. But yes, Patreon discs will be arriving.
They don't have to
tomorrow.
mow a lawn. They should be doing something.
True. They do mow lawns, though, with push mowers, which I feel like they drag them more than they push these days because of the powered wheels. It's not even like mowing lawn, for crying out loud. It's so easy. Like with the front. Yeah.
Oh, so self-propelled.
Yeah. Like,
okay.
That's insane.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. Anyway, yes. So those discs are arriving tomorrow. I just got the shipping information, so they'll get here tomorrow. And then I'll turn around and have to make up all the different labels to get them sent out to you. We'll have to get them signed and sent out to you guys. So they are that much closer to all of us.
Carney corrects me. It wasn't Islands in the Sun. It's Islands in the Streams.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. My Kenny cred is going down.
Yeah.
I knew he sang it with Dolly, though. So
yeah, I was so much more of a Neil Diamond guy, thanks to my mom. And
I mean, I'm not a Kenny Rogers fan. I just happen to know he has got two songs. He's The Gambler and he's got Islands in the Stream. So I don't know if I could name another Kenny Rogers song. But
you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille.
Is that one?
Yeah, Lucille. Is that the official name of the song?
Might be.
It must be. I'm gonna say that.
Welcome to our Kenny Rogers fan cast, where we talk about Kenny Rogers songs.
One of his biggest. Maybe I guess I don't even know that. I would feel like that has to be.
Artie says Weezer is In the Sun, bruh. maybe that's what came into my head. I'll tell you what. I know way more Weezer songs than I do Kenny Rogers songs. It is Lucille. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had to guess, obviously The Gambler, we're going to assume number one, his biggest hit ever.
Yep.
What would be his second biggest hit?
I think Islands in the Stream. Him and Dolly, I think.
Second wife? No. Second biggest.
Well, you could type in Kenny Rogers top hits. Right.
This is where we're at, folks. If you're not here for the after show, I don't even know what you're doing with your life. Okay. So this list, when I did a Google search, has Lucille at 5, Lady at 4.
I've heard Lady.
Just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. It was number 3 from 1967, well before our time. Islands in the Stream, number 2, and The Gambler, number 1. There you
Nailed
go.
it.
All right. Lucille, 5. I have to go back. I'll have to listen to. I mean, my mom, had the records or the 8-tracks, so I'll have to go back, pull up the 8-track player, and see what I recognize. It's been a minute. I don't know if we have anything else. If you guys don't have any Lucille, Lucille, which was my mother's name, and talks about her leaving the family and leaving them stranded. So it didn't go over well when my mom left my father. I mean, if we're being transparent here, when my mother,
where did you get that idea from?
Yeah, when my mother packed up me and my sister and left my dad in the middle of the night. Yeah, it was. That's for another podcast on another time.
That's a true story.
That's for my therapy podcast. Anyway, good thing only a few of us are old enough to know what's going on here. If you guys don't have anything else, it looks like we're going to call it. It's been a long enough night. I'm excited to head west. You're Portland and then Beaver State are in the next following weeks after that. And you keep telling me, but you work Portland or you work Beaver State?
Beaver State. I'm doing the full Beaver State.
Okay. All right. With that, appreciate all of you guys joining. It's been a wild. I don't know. It's so funny. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for all the love and the support. Seriously, especially how you guys are chatting. You're here every single week, and we appreciate all of you guys for doing so. Many of you guys are smashies. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, whatever. And looking forward to seeing you this weekend. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's SmashBoxxTV Podcast 507's after show. And we'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.